The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
But if you want to sort of see like a vision of the future, it's like basically the top 20 and or even the top 100 is like totally dominated by China. It's
really?
Insane. Yeah, this is like China and a little bit of Korea and Taiwan.
So are you in the top 20 in the world or the top 20? Wow, in Diablo.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody your handle? No, don't tell them. Don't tell them. It's not worth it.
Well, they actually listed me with my actual name in the list.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's only 2 Americans in the top 20. The rest, almost everyone is from Asia. Otherwise,
we were talking about something that I think is a really good, because people always think that video games are frivolous. But what you were saying, I think that's really important, is it's so difficult that it requires you to only think about that, and it can like relieve stress.
Yeah,
it can take out the rest of the world because it's so hard.
Yeah,
you can only think about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I play a video game on extreme difficulty, then I have to concentrate fully on the game. And it has a calming effect.
Yeah.
It sort of chills down. I mean, you mentioned, I think, and many people, like, if you play martial arts or you play pool, like something that forces you, it's like, I think anything that forces you to concentrate fully actually has a calming effect. I find it just sort of like kind of a restoring effect mentally.
Yes.
It's good.
Jiu-jitsu's like that.
Yeah.
Archery's like that as well.
Yeah.
Like when you're shooting a bow, you have to. There's so many moving things, and you have to think only of it, and it cleans the mind.
It cleans the mind. Yeah, exactly.
I was reading this study about surgeons, where they found that surgeons who regularly play video games make less errors.
Well, I mean, video games require manual dexterity, so it makes sense.
Completely makes sense.
I mean, actually, if somebody was like epic at video games, I'd say like their surgical skills can be very good, because in order to be good at video games, any kind of fast reaction video games.
Look at this: 32% fewer errors, 24% faster, and scored 26% better overall than their non-player colleagues.
Oh, I believe that for sure.
Incredible.
Well,
like that, you should be required in medical school to play video games. Don't you think?
If somebody's like a top-ranked video game player and they say they're a surgeon, I'd be like +1, +2 type of thing.
Oh, top rank for sure. Well, but this isn't even top rank. This is just people who play.
Well, your manual dexterity has to be extrely high.
Yes.
So you're looking at things on a screen. You're reacting, and sometimes you got like 10 milliseconds to react.
Yes.
And so if somebody's got incredible reaction times and manual dexterity, they're obviously going to be a good surgeon.
Imagine if there was a course that you could take. That course would promote. You would be 26% better.
Yeah.
Everyone would have to take that course.
Sure.
Why would you want a surgeon that's less prepared? You would say, hey, Bob, did you take this course? You didn't take this course. Don't you understand this course makes you 26% better?
Sure.
You would have to take it. Everyone should have to play video games if you want to be a surgeon.
Well, I think it certainly would be a very good test to see if somebody can't play video games well. Like, that means, because you got to move both hands simultaneously.
Right.
You've got to react to something very fast, then on the screen. So, and if your keystrokes or your mouse clicks or whatever are wrong, then you lose the game.
Right.
So, if somebody's has a good rank in video games, I would say that their manual dexterity must be extremely good.
Well, it's so
their fine
hard.
motor skills have to be excellent.
If you think about like StarCraft or any game like Quake, any game where a lot of people are playing, to rise to the top, you have to be exceptional, period, as a human being.
Yeah.
There has to be something exceptional about you.
Yeah. Actually, if I mention Quake, way back in the day, I was one of the world's best Quake players.
I know we talked about this.
Yeah.
I loved Quake.
Yeah. I mean, my final semester in college, I probably put more time into Quake than all my college classes.
When I was on news radio, all of the writers were super nerds. They were very, very fun guys, and they had a LAN set up at the studio where they all played Quake. I had never played video games, and I would go in with the writers and just kind of hang out with them. We'd get silly, and then we would all start playing video games and playing Quake against each other. And I got addicted, like hardcore.
Like
I got a T1 line installed in my house. I went hardcore.
Yeah, exactly. Checking how many milliseconds of latency.
Oh yeah, I was fully addicted. I was making my own computers. I was going to Fry's Hardware and buying motherboards and putting everything together. And it was too much of a time suck though.
Yep.
I'm an obsessive person. I can't get involved. Like I can't play golf.
No, golf is too slow for me. I mean, I know a lot of people find golf good, and I mean, I guess if you think of it like I guess if you're saying you're going to walk outdoors with friends and occasionally hit a ball, then and you're just as an outdoor walk, then that's cool. And it does require concentration when you're hitting the ball, but it's too slow for me.
Nothing compares to video games in terms of like the amount of feedback you get, like the sensory overload you get when you're looking at a large, high resolution screen. You have a fast computer. You have headphones on. That you're hearing sounds from here and sounds behind you, and rockets are flying by you. And there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I think golf still is like Jamie will tell you. Jamie's an addict. He's a golf nut. It's super addictive, and it takes 8 hours a day.
It's once you get into golf, I guess any sport it gets super addictive. But for me the intensity of video games is hard to beat.
Yes, people dismiss it because they think it's just a waste of time. But we're showing like real world benefits of people playing video games.
Yeah.
If you want to be a drone operator, it's the only game in town.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
You have to get really good at video games.
Yeah, for sure. So, in fact, I can actually tell like what my mental acuity is if I play a very hard video game. So if I'm trying to sort of get like an extremely good clear time in Diablo or something like that, or a first-person shooter, whatever the case may be. Like if I can tell that I'm tired, or my brain's not working as well as it should. It's like a mental calibration. You can tell immediately, like how good is your mental state?
Right, right.
So it's like if you're trying to play really well, like if you play late at night and you're tired, you just play badly.
Right.
And you can say, okay. You may think that your brain is working well, but it isn't. Because you play the video game and you're like, you suck. So okay.
Yeah, you're putting it under stress. Yeah. You're really stress testing it.
You stress test it, and because like sometimes like I think I'm fine, but then you play the game like okay I'm not. I'm like 10% below what I should be.
That's how I feel about workouts for sure. Like that's how I knew I had COVID, or I knew everyone in my family had COVID, and I was trying to not get COVID, and so I was working out. I was like something's up. Like I felt fine normally, but then during exercise, I was like, okay, I can tell there's something wrong here. So let's just back off, relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people who don't stress test their mind. They think they're operating on the same level all the time. Like sometimes I come in here and I can't form a fucking sentence, and I don't know what it is. It's like, what is going on? So it's just like
sleep's not. Maybe it's like what sleep wasn't that good or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Or I'm too busy, and it's not. The words aren't coming out. Like I know how to talk. I talk professionally, and I can't fucking talk. It's like
I mean, sleep's is massive. I mean,
huge.
So if I can tell immediately, did I get a good night's sleep or not? If I just play like a video game for like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, my sleep wasn't that good because it's my and then sometimes your brain will recover through the day, and it's like, okay, like an hour or two after waking up, it's better.
Yeah.
Because your brain does kind of recover from bad nights of sleep a little bit.
Do you know what really helps? Creatine, apparently.
Does it?
Yeah, creatine is actually a nootropic, believe it or not. There's a lot of like benefits of creatine that are really weird.
Are there any downsides?
No, it's a natural part of food. Yeah, especially women. For women, apparently, especially postmenopausal women, it's very beneficial.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like cognitive benefits, and one of the big ones that they found recently is performance when sleep deprived. Mental performance when sleep deprived increases pretty measurably when you supplement with creatine.
Is creatine naturally occurring in like steak or?
Yeah, it's like naturally occurring in meat, I think. I think that's where it's coming from. I think it's primarily an animal-based thing. Yeah, but
like I did switch to like steak and eggs for breakfast, and I found that's like a power up.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we're all overrun with carbohydrates.
Yeah, totally.
And you just, like carbohydrates make this big crash, the rise and the
Yeah,
crash,
totally.
the rise and the crash. You stay flat if you eat like a primarily high protein, high fat diet.
Yeah.
Your body runs off ketosis essentially.
Yeah. I mean, so I just have like steak and eggs, no bread or anything.
Yeah.
And
It's great.
It's great, actually. It's a power up, I'd say.
People dismiss this whole carnivore diet thing because in our heads, there's a
Yeah.
lot of propagandists that put this thing out there that animal agriculture is the #1 contributor to global warming.
Yeah, it's rubbish. It's
bullshit.
not true. Bullshit.
It's
Yeah.
hot bullshit.
It doesn't matter.
Not only is it hot bullshit,
Irrelevant.
but the real problem is factory farming. Regenerative farming is carbon neutral if it doesn't sequester carbon.
The animals are not going to make any difference to global warming. They can none.
No,
Zero.
it's
Zero.
horseshit.
Zippo, zero, nothing.
Do you think that that's just propaganda because of people that have a vested interest in like plant-based meat products and things along those lines, green energy?
I think it's part of it. You know, you're generally going to get people pushing to avoid meat. Like some people just, maybe they've got a financial interest. Maybe they're just like vegetarians or vegans or whatever.
Ideological interest.
Ideological reasons. But it's not going to make any difference to global warming or the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere. Really, if people eat fewer steaks, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Irrelevant. I want to just be super clear about that.
Yeah.
Will not matter. You will not even be able to measure it. Okay, that's how irrelevant it is.
Isn't it funny that that's
unmeasurable?
That's
irrelevant.
a heretic speaking. Like that's crazy talk now. Nowadays, it's like you have to say that we have to eat less meat.
No,
that meat is bad.
You can totally eat as much meat as you want. It's not going to make a difference.
Sing it. Sing it. Tell the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody says it does make a difference, I'm like, how will you measure it? And if you can't even measure it, then it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, I won't be able to measure it.
Well, there's so much bullshit out there. First of all,
Yeah, it's bullshit in all directions.
Thank you so much for buying Twitter.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
You're welcome.
I'm not exaggerating when I think you changed the course of history. I really do. I really think you made a fork in the road. We were headed down a path of censorship and of control of narratives that is unprecedented. Forget about what they were able to do back when they had newspapers and the media under control. What they were doing with social media by suppressing information, and when you had a combined government effort, like with what they were doing with the laptop story, where you have 51 former intelligence agents saying that this is Russian disinformation, take it offline, and Twitter complied.
Yeah.
If you didn't buy that, we wouldn't have known that. We had no idea.
Exactly. No, it's. I mean, the reason I bought it was because I'm pretty attuned since I was like the most interacted with user on Twitter before the acquisition. So before the acquisition, I had more interactions than like there's some accounts like Obama and whatever had higher follow accounts, but I had the most number of interactions of any account in the system. So I was very attuned to like if they change the system, I can tell immediately. Like and I'm like something weird is going on here, Like so there's like I just got increasingly uneasy, and obviously when they deplatformed a sitting president, not deplatformed Trump, that was just insane, and the things he was posting, like he was posting things that like he was posting good things. He was saying like, hey, do not riot, don't do any destruction of property, please stay calm. Like that's the kind of stuff he was posting. Yeah. And you're like, what's wrong with that? That's and then some people said like, oh, that's like some sort of dog whistle. He means the opposite. I'm like, okay, so we'll give you Trump's account. Now you post what you think you should post, because he can post nothing. He can ask people to calm down. Like what? It was insane. Like it didn't make any sense.
Well, it's completely illogical when you say it's dog whistling to tell his followers to not be violent. That's crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
Don't you think they'll listen to him?
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point? They listened to him and created violence in the first place? That's what you think. That's what you're accusing him of.
Right.
And then there's the fact that we know that there was agents in the crowd that were agent provocateurs that were encouraging people to do illegal shit.
Yes.
We know that for a fact. This is not... That was always the big Alex Jones type tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, because Alex proposed that back at the World Trade Organization protests. I believe we're in Seattle in the 90s. and they sent in agent provocateurs, started smashing things, lighting things on fire. Now all of a sudden a peaceful protest is no longer peaceful.
Right.
They move in the cops, they shut everything down. They had it set up where it was a no protest zone, where you couldn't even have a pin that had the WTO with a red line through it. They wouldn't let you go in through to go to work. So you couldn't protest, you couldn't exercise your First Amendment rights. You couldn't even have a peaceful protest, a fucking sticker on your car. You couldn't have that. It's crazy.
It is crazy. So no, I think we're very much at a fork in the road in destiny, I mean the reason I did the Twitter acquisition was it's like man, if I don't do this, I think we're screwed. Is the issue.
Well, if you didn't do it, no one else was going to do it because it wasn't a financial winner. It was kind of a crazy move. It's
a crazy move. I mean the thing was way overpriced, long term, I think we can ultimately make it a win for investors. But boy, this is a hard way to make a living.
Well, there's also a concerted effort to suppress it. There's a concerted effort with the advertisers.
Well, we had and still have a massive advertiser boycott that was organized by a bunch of left-wing NGOs. And you always want. And I should have brought my. I have a hat. Make Orwell fiction again.
I've seen that hat.
Yeah, I should have brought. I was going to wear my. I should have brought my Make Orwell fiction hat again. Yeah. I mean, it's just totally nuts. So.
If you didn't do it, no one would have. And here's the hilarious narrative that I keep hearing from idiots. Elon's a bad businessman. Twitter is worth, 400% less than when he bought it. No, it wasn't worth that in the first place.
It wasn't worth that in the first place.
It wasn't worth $44 billion, you fucking morons.
Yes.
Wrong. And also, you're not taking into account the advertiser boycott.
Exactly.
That's total bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. So there are these organizations, you can tell there's they're like when they have an Orwellian name. So the Center for Countering Digital Hate is a total scam organization. Because they're like the Ministry of Truth type of thing in Orwell. They're a censorship organization.
Yeah.
And they organize and they pushed the advertisers to boycott. So we still have some of the boycott is starting to lift. And I think if Trump wins, we'll see probably most of the boycott lift. But if Kamala wins, we'll see that boycott get stronger. And they'll friggin' shut down. There's no way that the sort of Kamala puppet regime would allow X to exist.
You really think that they'll be able to shut it down, though? Is there a pathway to that?
Yes.
What would they do?
Well, I mean, they can stick the DOJ on and say they've had this whole thing about hate speech, misinformation, whatever. Except that they're the ones pushing the misinformation. But that doesn't stop them from filing massive, lawsuits and using the DOJ. I mean, the DOJ has, been attacking SpaceX, for example, for not hiring asylum seekers, even though it is legal for SpaceX to hire anyone who is not a permanent resident of the U.S. So we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. There's just an example of what DOJ can do.
So it's illegal to hire someone who's not an American citizen.
What SpaceX is considered an advanced weapons technology. So it's covered by international traffic and arms regulations because we make rocket technology that can be used against the United States. So if North Korea or Iran got SpaceX rocket technology, they could use that to launch nukes at America.
Right.
That would be bad.
Yeah, that'd be really bad.
That'd be really bad. So we're since we are in the most extreme category of weapons technology at SpaceX, under U.S. ITAR law, it is illegal for us to hire anyone who's not a permanent resident because the presumption is that if they're not a permanent resident, they're going to return to their home country and take the rocket technology with them. So so it's illegal for us to hire anyone who's either has not a permanent. They can have a green card or be a citizen. They just have to be a permanent resident of the United States. Then there's another law that says if you discriminate against asylum seekers, you're also breaking the law. So the DOJ can only do a small number of big lawsuits every year. Launched a giant lawsuit against SpaceX, saying that SpaceX discriminated against asylum seekers, and we're like, but it's illegal for us to hire anyone who's not a permanent resident. So we're in this, like, this is what I mean. It's like Orwell. The Orwell situation is getting insane. Like, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. So you're damned.
Can you imagine history looking back
Fucked up, man.
at when you watch the robot arms catch the rocket and you realize, like, this is like one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of aerospace. Like, it is one of the most wildest accomplishments.
Yeah.
When you watch that thing come and you see all those people cheering and it catches it perfectly, like, holy shit. Imagine how history is going to look back at the DOJ going after that company.
Yeah.
How insane it is.
Big lawsuit with an army of lawyers. Like, this was not like some minor thing.
But it doesn't even make any sense
Doesn't make
logically.
any sense.
Like, how could it even get brought to court if it's illegal?
That's exactly. So that's what I mean. Like, basically, if the government wants to go after you, they'll just find a reason. You know, it's like that famous quote from Beria. You know, like, so, like, Stalin's, like, chief torturer, the head of Stalin's secret police, and he's like chief torturer, truly evil human being, like this guy Beria. His one of his famous quotes was, "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime."
Right.
They decide that you're the target, and then they figure out the crime afterwards. That's the issue. They decided SpaceX was the target. They just figured out the crime afterwards.
Which is so crazy because that's exactly what they're saying Trump is going to do if he gets into office.
They're doing all the things that they accuse Trump of doing.
Yeah. Openly.
Openly.
Yeah.
I mean, the sheer number of hoaxes that the Democratic Party is pushing over and over again. And it's like, look, I understand, like, politicians are going to, exaggerate. They're going to misspeak, and they'll tell occasional, untruths, whatever. That's how it is in politics. But when you have deliberate, concerted, repeated pushing of hoaxes, you're like, wait a second, like, come on, man, this is too far.
And you're supposed to be the good guys.
You're supposed to, and you claim to be the good guys? I'm like, exactly.
You're supposed to be the progressives.
Yes, the Dems are like, oh, we're the good guys. We're the honest people. No, hang on. You can't claim to be the good guys. You can't claim to be the honest people if you're deliberately pushing hoaxes that have been debunked thoroughly.
Yeah. Well,
we're like, even Snopes, which is a liberal thing, says it's bogus.
Yeah.
Like the Fine People hoax.
Obama just said that on stage.
Obama just said that. I was like, what the flying fuck?
He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a fuck. They're just
That's
just
a flat
going
out
for
goddamn
it.
fucking lie.
Flat out lie.
Flat out fucking lie.
How about the other one where Kamala's campaign used what Trump was saying about protecting women and from illegal immigrants?
Thank you.
You remember that? What he was saying is, if the women like it or not, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
When he was saying that, they were trying to say that he was taking away women's right to choose whether women like it or not. Like, that's not what he was saying.
Absolutely.
He was literally talking about protecting them from dangerous people that are sneaking in through the border.
Yes, exactly. They'll take like not even a full sentence, like a half a sentence from Trump, and then they'll push it on every ad, every speaking event, every
and it gets
media.
repeated on the news.
Yes.
This is what's crazy. They'll talk about it on these news shows, quote news shows.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a recent one that came up, which had a lot of people, because a lot of people reached out to me, was like, they're like, oh, Trump says he wants to execute Liz Cheney. I'm like, that is utter bullshit.
It's not what he said at all.
It's not what he said at all. He all he said was like, what he's saying is that, look, if Liz Cheney actually had to fight at the front lines, she'd think twice about going to war.
Exactly.
That, like, it's easy to go to war. It's easy to be a warmonger if you don't have to, risk dying at the front lines. Like, basically, it's fucked up if people are having, like, fancy dinners in Washington D.C. While people are being slaughtered in trenches. It's like, you're not feeling the pain.
Exactly.
You're not taking the risk. It's someone else dying.
Exactly.
That's cruel and lacking in empathy. And all Trump was saying was that it's like Liz Cheney would be much less of a warmonger, because she's a huge warmonger, just like her dad, if she actually had to go to the front lines and fight herself.
And meanwhile, they're saying that he's saying she should be shot.
Yes, which is a total lie. But I had like tons of people call me this weekend saying, "Oh, Trump says he's going to put Liz Cheney in a firing squad." I'm like, that is an outrageous lie. And legacy media ran with that lie, big time.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just wild to see. And if it wasn't for Twitter or X now, I don't think we would know about all this stuff. I think it would be very difficult for you. I think YouTube throttled. They did something weird. They won't say what they did, but they did something weird with the Trump interview that I did.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't find it.
It doesn't make sense.
It made no sense.
I mean, it was like the biggest interview on earth.
Yeah.
And you can't find it.
Yeah. Not only that, it
I'm
wasn't
like,
trending.
Bullshit.
It wasn't trending.
It wasn't trending.
No, it wasn't trending.
You're like, there's just no excuse for that, man.
No excuse.
There's no excuse.
It was getting 1 million views. What was it? 1.4 an hour at one point in time. 1.5 an hour.
Yeah.
And it wasn't trending.
Yeah. And it's like your channel is a known channel. It's not like it was started yesterday. It's like
yeah.
It's like this is a high trust. Yours is a high trust channel. It's like you're not trying to scam crypto coins or something, you know. So
well, thank God we put it on X as well.
Yeah.
Because I think just with your account and my account alone, it's like 70 million views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's like you can't hide things anymore because of you. And if it wasn't for you, I think they would have had total control of social media by now.
Yeah.
They would have they banned so many accounts during the pandemic, so many dissenting scientists and doctors and physicians. They banned so many conspiracy theorists, so many people that colored outside the lines. They would have done that everywhere, and it probably would have. I think even at what's going on at Facebook, they're being more lenient. You know, you hear Zuckerberg talking about taking a more libertarian stance. That's entirely reaction to the way Twitter has kind of moved the watermark.
Exactly. So, as soon as any company steps out of line and is willing to actually have the truth debated on their platform, it forces the other platforms to allow things to be more truthful, to not censor, because their censorship becomes glaringly obvious.
Yes. Yes.
And you know, the best thing I found as a rebuttal, like if there's a hoax, is just go to the source material. You know,
Right.
if somebody thinks, Trump said that we should put Liz Cheney in a firing squad, I'm like, let me send you a link to X so you can watch his video. That's the best way.
Yes.
Don't take my opinion for it. Don't take anyone's opinion for it. Go to the source material.
And community notes.
Yes, and community notes.
Community
is
notes
awesome.
is the best.
It's awesome.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets checked.
Yes, including me.
Yeah.
And with community notes, all the software is open source, and all the data is open source. So you can recreate any given note independently.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Total, absolute transparency in every way. Sometimes I get asked like, "Oh, Elon, can you remove a note?" Mostly by the left, but sometimes by the right. I'm like, I don't even remove notes on my own account. Nothing. And by the way, everything is totally open. So if I did that, it would stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Immediately. Like it's not going to be subtle.
That is the best counter to misinformation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Like let everybody look at it and say, okay, here's what the actual facts say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. The counter to misinformation is better information.
Not just that, but having it checked in real time by the community. So you have millions of people that can go over it and debate whether or not this is true or that's true.
Yes, and like I said, like the best way to understand the truth of things is don't take anyone's opinion for it. Look at the source material. It's like look at what someone actually said, look at what someone actually did, look at the real videos of the situation, and then you'll know what's real.
So as of today, when you were literally on your way here, you sent me this text saying that they're trying to lock you up in jail in Pennsylvania. Tell me what the fuck is happening.
Well, there's the classic sort of Soros DA situation. So we're making a lot of progress in Pennsylvania. So I've given a whole bunch of talks throughout the state because Pennsylvania is the linchpin in this election. Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the election. So I've been giving talks. And I spent 3 years in Pennsylvania. I went to college in Philadelphia. So it's not like I'm not a total stranger to the state. I spent 3 years there. We've organized this petition in support of the Constitution, which I think is a good thing, and specifically asking people to, and we wanted this to be like registered voters in swing states. Like basically, we want to send a message to the politicians to say that the people care about the Constitution because there've been all these attacks on the Constitution. They've been, especially on the Democrat side, they've been repeatedly saying that the First Amendment is an obstacle, and they're claiming, oh, the First Amendment is enabling disinformation, misinformation. And I'm like, yo, there's a reason for the First Amendment. Like freedom of speech, the reason the founders of the country put, the freedom of speech there is because they came from countries where if you spoke your mind, you would get shot or imprisoned. That's why the First Amendment exists. And the Second Amendment is there to stop the tyranny of government. The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is there to protect freedom of speech. And I've had these debates, especially with people in LA, because they're like, want to take everyone's guns away. And I'm like, yo, can you guarantee me that the government, that we will never have a tyrannical government in the United States? Can you make that guarantee? They're like, well, nobody can make that guarantee. I'm like, then we need to keep our guns, because that's what's going to stop it.
That sounds crazy for people to hear, because they think about gun violence and gun problems and gun this and gun that. But that's the reality of the world that we live in, is that tyranny is possible, and it exists other places, and it's slowly existing. It's slowly rearing its head in the UK. You're seeing, I think the number of people that have been arrested for just social media posts is bananas. It's in the thousands.
Yes, several thousand people have been given prison sentences in the UK for social media posts where there was no explicit link to actual violence, but they just said it encouraged violence. I'm like, well, did anyone actually do anything as a result of that media post? Well, no, but they just and then they have a prison overcrowding situation in the UK, so that quite literally releasing convicted pedophiles and putting people in jail for Facebook posts. That's an actual thing happening in Britain.
That is so wild.
Like you're like,
it's so wild that people can't see
what the fuck, is going on?
And what's insane to me
Make
is
oil fiction again.
Yeah. But it's all being encouraged by the left. Ketanji Brown Jackson, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton.
John Kerry was one of the people who said that he's on camera like a few weeks ago saying that the First Amendment is an obstacle to fighting misinformation.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's such a crazy thing to say when you have a solution in community notes.
Yes,
you have a solution in something like that could clear everything up, any confusion within a day or two.
And even without a community note, you can reply to a post and with evidence that shows that the post is wrong. You don't even need community notes. I mean, community notes is helpful because it sticks to the original note.
Yes.
But in the replies, you can say, here's why you're wrong, here are the reasons, and here's the evidence.
But the argument is that people are too unsophisticated, that they're not going to research these things. They're going to be a victim of misinformation. So they're going to read something that's incorrect. They're going to run with it. People are going to die. We're going to ruin the world because people believed in misinformation. It's a stupid argument.
It's a stupid argument.
Because it's an argument that they're too dumb to know what's right or wrong. Well, if you know, because you're saying it's misinformation, why do you think that you're smarter than everybody who reads that?
Exactly. And obviously anyone on the X system knows that things are posted and then there are replies and there are rebuttals and it's immediately corrected. But where are the corrections for the legacy media?
Right.
If some broadcast media, they say false things all the time, but it's a one-way street. There's no rebuttal. There's no counter.
Right. Right. Who's apologized for being incorrect about what? Did Rachel Maddow ever apologize for telling everybody that if you get the COVID vaccine, you're never going to get COVID? It won't. The virus stops with you.
No, never.
Never. Yeah. No one ever. It's just. It was not true at the time. There was no evidence to support it at the time. It's pure propaganda. And she said it. The RussiaGate hoax. For 3 fucking years, they said that he was Putin's toy.
Yes.
And that Putin had him compromised. The Steele dossier.
Steele dossier was completely fabricated by a lawyer at Perkins Coie, who was paid by the Clinton campaign. Literally.
Crazy.
And still people think the Russia hoax is real.
And there's no repercussions.
Yes.
No one had to apologize. Hillary Clinton never came out and apologized for that, and people still listen to her. The whole thing is crazy. Yeah. And it's all coming from the left, which, growing up as a person who was in the left my whole life, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Same. I mean, I was on the left until like 3 years ago. I mean...
it's not the left anymore.
It's not the left anymore. Yeah. It's just like I think we obviously want. I mean, I believe like we want freedom. Like we want to maximize personal liberty. I think we want to be kind to people. We want to have empathy, but it's very important to have personal freedom and a merit-based society. And the left wants to oppress your freedoms, especially freedom of speech, and they want to have a non-merit-based society, with race-based and sex-based preferences. And it's like, well, wait a second. No, we just want people to succeed based on their skills and their hard work.
And if they don't want people to express themselves about particular issues, then they're not doing the will of the people. And if they're trying to suppress people's ability to communicate, they're only doing that because they want to do things that people don't want them to do.
Yes.
And they want to silence opposition. That's all it is. And the
100%.
fact that people can't see that and they want to call Trump a fascist, the whole thing is
it's just
through the looking glass. It's just,
I mean, it's like one hoax after another that they're perpetrating against Trump. I mean, like they try to call the rally at Madison Square Gardens like a Nazi rally. I'm like, yo, there was like literally an Israeli flag in the audience. I think like a quarter of the speakers were Jewish. Like there were people of every race, color, creed, religion at that rally. Like, tell me what about that is Nazi?
No,
and yet it was portrayed as a Nazi rally.
Well, MSNBC, they literally showed video of the Nazi rally from the 1930s and then compared it to the Trump rally. Now, ignoring the fact that fucking Jimmy Carter spoke there.
There have been dozens of political rallies at Madison Square Gardens, dozens on the Democrat side. Like people on X were like, and here's Jimmy Carter, and here's Bill Clinton, and here's wait a second. Actually, it looks like every presidential candidate has done on the Democrat side has done a rally at Madison Square Gardens. Are they Nazis too?
But what they're doing is they're preying on low information voters who aren't engaged actively on social media, who don't have the time to look through everything. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like people are living. If people are just on looking at legacy mainstream media, then they have a totally different worldview than if they're on X and seeing the actual flow of argument.
Yes.
And the actual evidence.
Well, what was the pushback? Like, what happened when you guys released the Twitter files? Because I think the Twitter files is probably one of the most important things in this age of information for understanding the influence that government has on social media and on discourse. Because when we found out that was the case, that the government was actually asking Twitter to remove posts that were factual,
all the time.
They did the same thing to Facebook. They had them throttle pieces of one of Tucker Carlson's show. They suppressed the views by 50%.
Yeah.
Of factual information.
Yeah, no, there was massive government interference in Twitter, but like Twitter welcomed it. That's important to all Twitter welcomed it. All Twitter was controlled by far left activists.
Yeah.
So they welcomed the government interference. They got paid by the government for it.
That's crazy. They got paid for their time, correct?
Yeah, they got paid millions of dollars for suppressing information.
So it's like build time.
And a bunch of it was like flat out illegal. Like the FBI had this sort of magic portal into the Twitter system, but all of the communication in that in this portal was auto deleted after 2 weeks, which breaks federal FOIA laws. So we don't even know what was said because it was all deleted after 2 weeks.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. It's so crazy that people thought that was okay.
It's super not okay.
No, it's super not okay. It's unconstitutional, and no one would want that. No one would want the government to have that kind of access.
Exactly.
And what was the blowback like when all that stuff got released? Like, you had to anticipate that there was going to be problems when you released that. Like, what happened?
Well, we got we did lose a lot of advertising dollars,
which is crazy because it's essentially like one of the most important forms of journalism is exposing government corruption.
Yes, I mean this is the weird thing. It's like the left used to be big on exposing government corruption, but once they control the government, they no longer want to expose the government corruption.
Right. They want to pretend that the left-wing government's incapable of corruption because we're on the good side.
I think it maybe just like whoever's in power kind of doesn't want the other side heard, because as you pointed out, like the left historically up until I don't know, maybe even 10 years ago or something like that, was the free speech party, and now it's the anti-free speech party, and they use words like oh well, we have to be against hate speech and misinformation, disinformation, but these are propaganda words. It's like well, who's defining hate speech? Who's defining misinformation? The government? Do you really trust the government to make that definition? The whole point of the First Amendment is like, you do not trust the government.
Well, especially when they're wrong, and
Yes,
then there's
like
no
with lies.
repercussions.
Yes.
Yeah, like with the whole lab leak theory, if you would get kicked off of YouTube if you even presented this argument that, hey, maybe that coronavirus lab where they're doing work on the exact same virus that got released.
Yep.
Hey, maybe that's where it came from, since that's where
Yeah.
the virus started. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
They kick you right off of YouTube.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's like, do you think maybe it could have come from a place called the Novel Coronavirus Research Institute?
Yeah, like
of
that
Wuhan?
Jon Stewart bit that he did on Colbert.
Do you
That
think-
was amazing.
It's like, what does it say on the door again? Can I see your business card?
And to see Colbert like resisting it with every fiber of his
yeah, they're
being.
like, what's going to happen to us?
He
You
was
know?
totally cock blocking the bit to the point where Jon Stewart got off his chair and
Yeah.
started walking around trying
That
to
was
take
wild, man.
control. Yeah, good on John.
And then the left tried to cancel Jon Stewart.
Of course.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he was right.
He's right.
And no apologies. No
Yeah, yeah.
apologies. Yeah, and the whole Fauci thing, like
Yeah.
any criticism of Fauci, it's like
Fauci's a freaking
anti-science.
demon, if you ask me.
If you read RFK's book,
Yeah.
if the real Anthony Fauci, if that's correct, if the facts are in there, that's true, it's all referenced.
Yeah.
You could find the sources, and on top of it, he's never been sued for that book,
Yeah.
which doesn't make any sense. If he just made a
Exactly.
bunch of lies up, he would get sued.
Yes.
So the guy's a monster.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think like just looking at the lies that he told, the way he tried to define gain of function research to Rand Paul.
But I think maybe a lot of people out there don't realize Fauci funded the bioweapons research that was going on in Wuhan, and he bank shot it off. Like you can't send the money directly to China, so he just bank shot it off EcoHealth.
Right.
This like fake nonprofit in
Right.
the U.S. and they sent it to Wuhan.
And Obama put the skids on that. He stopped that in 2014.
Yes, I mean, so to give Obama some credit, he actually was like looking at this and say, hey, this is crazy, and he actually did stop the so-called gain of function, again a propaganda word, because what is the function they're talking about? Death.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So if you actually use the right word, this is gain of function is death maximization.
Right.
Then you're like, hey guys, should we fund bioweapon research into death maximization? Because that's what gain of function means.
Yeah, it means
That's the function.
making a
death.
disease so that people can get it. Give it to people.
Yeah,
By the way,
just what's that function again? Oh, the function is death? Oh, okay, so just call
Also-
it a death maximizing virus.
if you're
That's
doing
insane.
research on that, and the idea behind this research is so that we can cure these things, how come you don't have a fucking cure?
Start with a cure. Cure
Yeah.
first, disease second.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, you guys had no strategy for
Yeah.
dealing with it if it got out, and so you have to like make up this new vaccine in like record time, Operation Warp Speed, release it to the people with very little testing. It's fucking
Yeah.
crazy.
It was crazy.
The whole thing's crazy, and
That was
everybody
like
just
Looney
went
Tunes,
along
man.
with it.
Looney Tunes next level.
Well, the psyop was fascinating to watch people step in
That's
line.
like one of the biggest psyops of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time. And everybody got in line. And when you take it back to when pharmaceutical drug companies were able to advertise on media in the 1990s, that changed
Yeah.
everything. We're one of 2 countries in the whole world that allows this.
Yeah.
And because of that, because we don't have socialized medicine, it's a complete profit scam.
Mm-hmm.
And they went hard, claiming all sorts of things that were never researched, all sorts of things that are not supported by data, like the fact that it would stop transmission, the fact that it would stop
Right.
infection, the fact that it was safe for pregnant women,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it was safe for children. All of it's bullshit.
Yes.
And they pushed it on the whole world. And if you didn't say that at a
Yes.
cocktail party, you were a pariah.
Yes.
And you were an anti-vaxxer.
It was totally psycho.
It was like being a Holocaust denier. You
Yes.
get kicked out of
Yeah.
polite society.
Exactly.
Fucking bananas.
And I should say, like, I'm actually generally pro-vaccine overall. I think we should look at these things. But I believe in the scientific method.
Yes.
So you never blanket accept anything. You never blanket accept that any given medication or any given treatment is 100% good. You should always view it with some skepticism.
Especially when you're getting the data from pharmaceutical drug companies that have like a long history of
maybe
criminal
they've got a vested interest.
conduct.
Yes,
Yeah.
they've got a vested interest in the research. It's sort of like asking tobacco companies about, whether smoking is dangerous.
It's exactly the same thing.
Like, oh, according to our scientists, everything's fine.
Yeah, they lied in court forever. The same thing they did with OxyContin when they said that it wasn't addictive. Like, they have a long history of being full of shit if it makes them money. And that's what they do. That's their business.
They've literally lost multi-billion-dollar lawsuits up in this.
Massive. They're in you have amazing scientists, right? You have these clinical researchers, these people that develop these incredible drugs, and this is their job. Their job is to figure out some new way to cure something, some new way to stop things. And then you have the money people.
Sure.
And the problem is when you have this one thing that you would assume they're only doing it to help people, and then you have this other faction that they're all just numbers people, and all they give a fuck about is maximizing profits and making sure they literally have an obligation to their shareholders. They have to make the most amount of money possible, and so they just want to push it on everybody, like the Vioxx scandal. There's internal emails showing they knew there was going to be cardiovascular events. People were going to get strokes. And they're like, I think we're still going to do well. And they did. They made like $12 billion. They got fined $7 billion, and 50 to 60,000 people died.
Holy shit.
Yeah. One of them was a friend of mine, got a stroke.
And died?
He didn't die. Okay. He lived, but he was a really healthy guy.
But
he was an athlete.
Like not the same afterwards.
Yeah, he had knee problems, and he took Vioxx, and all of a sudden he was slurring his words, and he couldn't concentrate, and people were like, I think you're having a fucking stroke, and they took him to the hospital. And then you have this giant class action lawsuit, and then Vioxx gets pulled from the market, and they get sued, and the whole thing's fucking crazy. But there's a long history of this. I think, what is the number? Like 1/3 of the drugs that the FDA approves gets pulled? It's fucking bananas.
That is crazy.
That's crazy. You're shitty at 1/3 of the things that you say are okay, but yet you're trying to stop MDMA therapy for veterans?
Yeah, they should let MDMA through, honestly. I think that would actually help a lot of people.
It would help a lot of people.
It would help a lot of people.
There's a lot of different therapies, specifically psilocybin, ibogaine.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to go to Mexico to get ibogaine therapy for veterans. So many guys I've talked to have gone over there, and it's like completely giving them a clean slate, refresh their mind, and totally new perspective on life, alleviated depression, cured addictions. Illegal.
Yeah.
Illegal. OxyContin, go get it.
Yeah. And I know some people who, like, their life was ruined by OxyContin.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, it really depends on somebody's individual biochemistry. Like, to me, opioids are not addictive to me. Like, I've had them when I've had operations or something, and they barely affect my pain level, and they make me like itchy and uncomfortable.
They make me stupid.
Exactly. But I'm like, so like I could never get addicted to alcohol or opioids. It's just impossible. Like, because my biochemistry just does not have but I love tasty food. I feel like, if there's, I'm addicted to tasty food, sure. But like there's like can be like I have a whole wall of alcohol. It's there for decoration.
Yeah.
I haven't touched it. Basically,
I feel the same way. I could easily quit alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go weeks without having a drink.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all. But I know some people, they have one drink and they're off to the races, and that's the difference in the biochemical differences that we all have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the case with a lot of addictions. I'm not addicted to gambling, but I get it. I see it. I've seen it in people. But I have this aversion to things that I know are going to ruin my life. I see it. That's why I've never tried cocaine. I just saw too many people that it looks too fun. I'm like, I don't want to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think generally for any given drug, legal or illegal, you could. The question is, can you complete the following sentence? Blank made me a better person.
Meth.
Like, I've never heard anyone say meth made them a better person or cocaine made them a better person. No. Ever.
Made a lot of soldiers better, I think. That's
I mean, if you're doing, if you're like, if your soldiers need to march for 3 days in a row,
it does. It's really
meth
good
is
for that.
Effective at that, like people give like France a hard time about capitulating in World War II, but you know what's worse than Nazis? Nazis on meth.
Methed up Nazis.
They're not stopping.
Norman Ohler
They'll
wrote
have like
this
6
book.
bullets. They're still coming.
That book over there, Blitzed, is all about the use of methamphetamines and the different drugs that they gave their soldiers. The guys at the front of the line, they gave the most meth.
Yes.
They have different dosages.
Yeah. I mean, you just basically think you're vulnerable on meth, and so it's one thing. Like I said, so one thing be, have like be Nazis coming after you, but Nazis on meth, you're like, holy shit, those fuckers are not stopping, man.
For 3 days.
They're not stopping.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a statement, meth made me a better person, that you hear very often.
I've never heard that before.
No, you hear a lot of like psilocybin advocates. You hear a lot of people that talk about psychedelics.
Exactly. I've actually heard many people say that LSD or mushrooms or MDMA made them a better person.
Yeah.
Many people.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I think a rule for the FDA should be like, hey, look, if you can complete the sentence, legal or illegal, that blank made you a better person, actually, then you got a good drug. And if you can't, you got a bad drug.
Also, if there's drugs that are available right now that can absolutely ruin people's lives, the rationalization for stopping other drugs that might ruin people's lives but also can help a lot of people's lives, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's basically the same thing as censorship. You're taking away people's ability to discern what's true and not true, and you're taking away people's ability to discern what's good for you and not good for you. And the way to find that out is to have as much information as possible.
Exactly.
So to do research and actually to have unbiased, actual objective observers who are looking at all this stuff that give you real data.
Yes.
And the opposite of that, or the counter to that, is like, if you don't do that, you're empowering cartels.
Yes.
That's the whole reason why they have all that money. It's because it's illegal to sell these drugs in America. The demand is never going away. So instead of like limiting the amount of drugs, now you've got toxic drugs because fentanyl and all this other shit has been, because they're not pure. So you're just killing people. You're not saving anybody by protecting them from themselves.
True.
But it's a tricky situation because what do you do? Like, if you just like say, okay, now everyone can sell, all these people that have been selling boner pills, now you can sell meth. Like, holy shit!
you get the double combo with the Viagra. It's like Viagra and a meth.
Right. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, how many people are already doing that right now with Adderall
a bunch of people
and
are
Viagra?
doing that. Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there that are essentially on meth.
Yeah.
Especially people that abuse Adderall.
Yeah.
They're basically amphetamine up all day long.
Adderall is low-grade amphetamine.
Yeah.
I have actually seen people like become much worse people if they take too much Adderall, like much worse. You know, it's like an anger amplifier. So they're now I'm not saying like Adderall is something like where there are pluses and minuses. It's not a clear-cut issue.
Right.
It does help some people a great deal. But in higher doses, man, that stuff I've seen people turn into just raging monsters on high doses of Adderall. Just they're just angry, like extremely angry, all the time.
Yeah, they're methed up.
That's what happens if you take meth.
It's crazy.
You turn it like meth turns you into a friggin' rage demon.
And so
I'm
so many prescriptions.
And I'm like, Jesus.
We Googled it. Like 1 year, there was like 39 million prescriptions for Adderall in this country.
Oh yeah. And like once in a while, there's like an Adderall shortage, and like there's like widespread panic.
And then what do people do? And then it's the same thing as like when they tried to like limit the amount of OxyContin. Well, people go to street heroin. And if you're addicted to Adderall and your dealer, your guy who sells you weed, is like, hey man, I can get you like low grade meth, like the stuff the Nazis took. Like,
well, they had high grade meth. Actually, they had pharmaceutical grade. They had epic meth. It was like made by pharmaceutical grade meth is going to be just look at the freaking online Wikipedia page. But there's like many different versions of meth. Like not all the same, and they have different effects. But like pharmaceutical grade pure meth, you are going to be, oh my God,
super productive,
super productive for a certain period of time, and you're not going to sleep for a while, and then you'll have some anger management issues. So they actually the Nazis, they did actually roll back how much meth they were using, because they had quite a few incidents of the soldiers killing their officers because they were on too much meth.
Jesus Christ!
They would. Yeah, so they would shoot. That too many officer got fragged by their platoon that was on too much meth, because that happened quite a few times. Like you just when someone's on a lot of meth, they can get very angry.
Did you ever pay attention to when John McAfee was cooking meth in a lab in his backyard?
I mean, McAfee's quite a character.
He was a character.
Man.
We had him on the podcast when he was on the run. So he called in from an undisclosed location when he was running from, where was he? Costa Rica? Is that where he was?
Belize,
right. So when he was running from the authorities, he called in, and we had him on the podcast on the run. And I was asking him about these posts, like, because there was an online account that was linked to him where he had this very detailed laboratory, like super sophisticated, making the best meth, like a super genius cooking meth.
I mean, I think he had his lab, like he was making like a wide range of drugs. And there's I talked to actually like a reporter who went down and like interviewed him in Belize, and reporter said, "Man, that's one of the scariest things." He was quite terrified. So like one of the things that McAfee he had, I guess, this trick where he would play Russian roulette with himself. So he'd put a bullet in the revolver, and they'd spin the chamber. And clearly he had like some like trick to know that it was not. There's some way that he knows it's not the right bullet. But I do wonder, like, if McAfee's high and he does that, he's not always going to get the trick right. You
sure he had a trick, or maybe
So according to this reporter, when he went to visit McAfee in Belize, McAfee took out the revolver, put a bullet in the revolver, spun the chamber, and then pointed at his head and went click. And the reporter's like saying, "Please don't do this. Like, this is insane." Click, click, click. And then pointed the gun at the ground, and next went click, bang, and shot a bullet in the ground.
Jesus.
That's a hell of a party trick.
Jesus.
This is the next level of party trick.
That's a guy who's seen The Deer Hunter too many times.
Yes.
Remember that scene? When they were forcing...
Yes.
Yeah. Woo, that's a heavy scene.
That's a heavy scene.
De Niro and Christopher Walken, that's one of the greatest scenes in any movie ever. I remember watching that scene just like clawing at my pants. Like, McAfee was a wild boy.
Wild.
And created brilliant antivirus software.
Yeah. He may have made some of the viruses too.
You think so? Well,
possible.
didn't he like give laptops to a bunch of government organizations
with viruses on them?
So that he could pay attention to what they were doing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody whacked that guy. I don't know what happened to him, but he would be a guy that would be like, this guy is a little bit too loose.
And probably had sensitive information. I don't know.
For sure he did.
I mean, I found him to be an interesting guy. I mean, like I'm generally feel like if somebody is not harming someone else, they should be okay. Now, there is some suggestion that McAfee like killed his neighbor in Belize. So
probably did. Maybe the neighbor was a douchebag.
I think he probably did.
Seems like he probably did. Seems like the neighbor killed his dog.
Yes.
Right, and then it seems like he killed the neighbor.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it seems likely.
It's not a zero possibility.
It's definitely not zero.
It
seems more likely than not.
He's a messed up wild man playing Russian roulette. Hey, maybe you kill your fucking neighbor.
Yes.
I mean, if somebody killed your dog, you'd be really inclined to kill them too.
Yeah.
Somebody killed your squirrel.
Yeah, John Wick.
Yeah. The fucking squirrel thing is bananas.
Yeah.
That squirrel thing in New York?
Thing, so here's the thing about the whole squirrel thing is that how can it be that we live in America, supposedly land of the free, and the government can barge into your home with guns, so if you resist, you're going to get shot, and then take your pets and execute them. And if they can do that to your pets, what do you think they can do to you?
I know that's not an exaggeration.
Absolutely.
It sounds like you're oh, that's so crazy. How can you make that connection? But why would you kill that cute little squirrel that was obviously a pet and trained from the time it was a baby?
Yes.
If you see the interaction that guy has with that squirrel, it was wonderful. It was really cute.
Yes, absolutely. It was just obviously it was a beloved pet squirrel, and a raccoon too, and doing no harm, and the government comes in, barges into the guy's house, takes his pets, and kills them. And I think this should really get people out there mobilized, frankly, because when you think you see that like the John Wick movie, where John Wick's like, he just wants peace, like in the John Wick movie, he's like, listen, I want to retire, and they offer him like tons of money, like because they want him to be an assassin, to keep being an assassin, like they like offer him tons of money, they threaten him, he's like, listen, I'm not gonna be, I'm out, and they kill his dog. That was a bad idea. That was
They killed a cute little puppy, and the puppy was his ex-wife's gift to him when she died of cancer.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Great movie.
The best revenge movie of all time. Because it's so ridiculous. He kills everybody.
Yeah, he kills everyone.
And you're rooting for him.
Yeah. They shouldn't have killed his dog.
Yeah, they fucked up. And they shouldn't have killed that squirrel.
They shouldn't have killed that squirrel. I mean, it's like, how many cases have we not heard about,
Oh, look at that little guy. And that squirrel clearly had a love relationship with that guy. He would hop all over him and climb on him. I mean, that was his pet. That squirrel thought of that man as his protector, as his companion.
Yes.
There was nothing wrong with that. And in Texas, it's totally legal. You could have a fucking zebra out here. You could have whatever you want. And that's the argument for freedom. And, the flip side is you get a bunch of people with tigers in their backyard, which is not great.
It's like, this was a fucking squirrel. It's not
Right.
It's not an anaconda or a
Right.
or crocodile or something that's
Or a
gonna harm.
chimpanzee. Did you see Chimp Crazy?
Oh man, chimps will eat your face. Okay?
They will fuck you up.
They will fuck
And
you
they don't
up.
even, the thing is, they don't even kill you. They just cripple you. Chimps don't even kill people, which is really weird. They just bite your hands off and bite your dick off and tear your face apart.
Yes.
They want to leave you. They could kill you easily. If a chimp wanted to just punch you in the head until you're dead, it wouldn't take long, but they don't kill you. They just rip you apart.
Yeah.
And you can have a chimp. And
Yeah,
you used to be able to have a chimp in a lot of states, and then Chimp Crazy kind of exposed a lot of that, and PETA did a great job of stopping people from keeping chimps as pets. Because once they hit like 5, you can't control them anymore.
Well, it's obviously totally understandable if somebody's got, a creature that is dangerous to others. But like obviously a squirrel and a raccoon are not.
Well, squirrels are fucking everywhere. That's what's so crazy.
Yeah,
like, why can't you have it in the house? What kind of rules are we dealing with? You have rats everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, they're allowing criminals to go free and like violent criminals to go free, but they're like spending your tax dollars to come in and execute your fucking pets. What the hell's going on?
Exactly.
And it's like,
but it's overreach.
It's government overreach, and this just keeps getting worse every year, and that's why we've got to fight back against this. It's people say like, well, it's just a squirrel. Well, it was in John Wick's case, it was just a dog.
Right. Yeah.
But
well, remember the Russian guy said, it's a fucking dog. It's just a fucking dog.
Just a fucking squirrel.
Yeah. Well, it's the funniest thing is when I just don't understand how anybody could justify it. I don't understand how it seems to me that in a logical world, all that guy would have to do is say, why don't you see me with this squirrel? This squirrel's a pet.
Yeah.
Like, look, he hops on me. He eats. He sleeps. I can keep a gerbil, but I can't keep a squirrel. I can have a guinea pig. I can't have a squirrel. I can have a chinchilla. My daughter has a chinchilla. It's adorable. Adorable little thing. Climbs all over. Can't have a squirrel.
Even if they did take a squirrel away, couldn't they have released it into the woods or something?
Well, the idea is you have to euthanize it because it's used to being fed. It doesn't know how to forage. It won't be able to find a home. Squirrels are brutal. Squirrels are absolutely brutal to each other. They throw each other out of trees, which is one of the reasons why squirrels can fall from 30 feet and just kind of bounce off the ground and live. It's a natural adaptation because squirrels during mating they bite each other. They used to be a rumor. There was a myth that squirrels bite each other's nuts off, and that seems to be a myth. But it came out of the fact that squirrels are so ruthless during mating. So one female is just running away. I have squirrels in my backyard. I watch it all the time. One female apparently goes into estrus, and all the male squirrels fight to get to her. So they're running up trees and chasing each other around trees, literally throwing each other off trees to try to so if this poor little Peanut, the squirrel, who's used to living with a guy in an apartment, gets out there in the wild world of
fair
squirrels.
enough, but at least they have a chance.
Yeah. At least he has a chance.
At least have a chance.
How about just leave him with the guy?
Yeah, leave him with the guy for sure.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you killing that squirrel? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then to add insult to injury, there were a bunch of people on the left who were like actually posting that they're glad that MAGA squirrel got killed, which is fucking.
MAGA squirrel.
Yeah.
Like the fucking squirrel has an ideology. It's a
It's
cute
just
little
fucking- yeah.
fluffy squirrel.
Exactly.
Well, it's
So,
a
I
nice
just-
symbol because most like reasonable, compassionate people think that's terrible, and most people who have
Yeah,
pets
exactly.
think it's terrible.
Terrible. So I don't know. I mean, I'm like, I hope people just go out there and vote for Peanut, man. If nothing else, if nothing else, just vote for Peanut. You know.
They've done such a job of painting Trump as a monster. You know, they've taken the worst things that he's ever said and he's not a perfect person, but guess what? No one's a perfect person. They
Yeah.
don't exist. This purity test, like if Obama was a perfect person, he wouldn't be lying on stage about
Yeah, exactly.
that very
The
fine
fine-
people hoax. There's
Exactly.
no one's going to be a perfect person, but the thing that they didn't understand about Trump is he's so crazy that if you tell him like he can't be president, like remember Obama did that during that White House press correspondence. There's one thing that I am that you'll never be, president of the United States. And you see Trump in the audience going, "Okay, motherfucker." Like,
You know, the funny thing is, I was actually at that White House Correspondents' Dinner, where it's supposed to be a roast of the president.
right?
Trump's there. He's there. He's actually supporting. It's basically, if you go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, you're there in support, actually, of the president and support of the press.
Right.
It's meant to be that you're roasting the president. Like Trump's just there. He's like actually, he's like there as part of the support. And then they turned it around and just started roasting Trump. And he's just sitting there. He's like, yo, I just came to the dinner. I wasn't. I'm just here to support.
We know what it was because of, right? The birther stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's what it all was. It was all Trump was at the head of a lot of these people spreading this rumor online that Obama's birth certificate was forged, then he's actually from Kenya. And what's weird is if you go back to Obama's early days, there are some things that say he's from Kenya. Like I think in his something from college said he was from Kenya. But that could just be, people print things wrong all the time. It doesn't mean he's actually from Kenya. But Trump was one of those guys that was like spreading that supposedly false rumor.
Was he pushing it hard? I mean, this is the kind of thing where I want to just go and look at saying what did he actually say?
No, he definitely was.
Okay.
He was definitely saying, look, I don't think he has the time to go into things like very deeply.
Yeah.
And so I think he could probably be influenced by a bunch of people, like these Marjorie Taylor Greene type people who come to him with some wild ass theory.
Sure.
He might be, and I think there's a lot of that stuff that gets fed to people on purpose so that they'll say incorrect things so that they're easy to dismiss.
Sure.
And I think there's also a lot of people that just make shit up and, they tell you the earth is flat and then a bunch of people watch a YouTube video and they believe it.
Yeah, well, but on that White House Correspondents' Dinner, I was there, and the degree to which they attacked Trump at that White House Correspondents' Dinner was really, it was so over the top. It was like making everyone uncomfortable.
Really?
It was really over the top. I mean, I think like sort of a passing joke of like, a few passing jokes are fine, but they twisted the knife big on Trump in that, and you could see Trump just getting like angrier and angrier and more upset.
I wonder if that's
and it's like, man, this is not good karma, That's what I was thinking at the time. I was two tables away from Trump, and I'm looking at him like, man, this is too much,
Well, it's kind of crazy what they made out of that, because that's the kind of guy that if you tell him he can't do something, he's going to just keep trying. Like
it was a big mistake to rag on him so much at that White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Well, just look at the way they've attacked him with just using the legal system, like this thing in New York where the 34 different felony counts that were essentially misdemeanors, that there are bookkeeping errors. That they decided, even though it passed the statute of limitations, they decided to try him for these. They didn't identify a felony.
Abuse of the law is what's going on.
But most people would have quit. Yeah. Most people, after the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit and this lawsuit and all the other ones, the insurrection thing, the Georgia thing, all these different things, they getting kicked off of Twitter. Most people would have just like, this is too much. I can't take this. But he's so fucking crazy. He's like, all right, come on, we're going to war. And he just digs his fucking heels in and keeps going.
Yeah.
It's the wrong guy to do that to.
It
Just
is the wrong
like
guy to do that to.
attacking him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, most people would have been humiliated. He got angry. And he's like, yeah, all right. You say I can't be president? I've been thinking about running for about 15 fucking years.
Right.
Finally, I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a real bad move. But yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand like making some jokes about like, you know, a few sort of passing jokes on Trump. But man, I was there at that dinner and that they ragged on Trump so much it was insane.
The reason why I would push back on that, because I would say there's a bunch of different speakers, right? And Trump would obviously be a target. And if they all attacked him, it's because he's like, if you're going to make fun of people in the audience, and especially in the zeitgeist, that whole birther thing was big.
Yeah.
And most people were dismissing it as being a ridiculous conspiracy theory. So who the fuck is this guy saying this?
Sure.
And so you have 8 to 10 individual speakers that are writing monologues. Of course, they're all going to hit Trump.
Yeah, well, anyway, obviously it was a mistake. They shouldn't have done that. But I like invite people to watch the original source material, and I think a few jokes are fine. You know, it's like, but it's like he shouldn't be it felt like he was the primary object of the roast.
Yeah,
which is that's not the whole point of the thing. Is it's a roast of the president, not a roast of the audience.
The thing about it is like he's easy to roast.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, Obama was like loved and cherished by the left.
Yes.
And most of those people are on the left. There's only so far you can push. You know, you can't ask him about a chef. You know, there's like what happened with the chef, bro?
Yeah.
You can't. It's like certain things you can't bring up.
You want to? What's your favorite sport? Paddleboarding?
Yeah. Wasn't that guy a really good swimmer?
Yeah.
Tell me what happened.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
You can't bring that up.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna roast Hillary, you can't bring up the death count.
Like Hillary, what's the best way to stay in touch? Email?
Yeah, it's if you're doing one of those
she
things.
destroyed the servers and poured like bleach on the servers, like computers.
She poured bleach on them.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I believe. That's
Wow.
like it wasn't just like they took a hammer to it. They like destroyed like there was no possible way to actually get forensics on the thing.
What was in there? I mean,
What? Like that. That's what I mean.
What was in there? What was in there?
Why would they care so much?
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
And
is
there was
crazy.
there was no legal action against that, which is clear destruction of evidence.
Well, it's also there's this other narrative that always drives me crazy is that he's going to destroy democracy. So in order to destroy democracy, we have to install a president without a primary.
Right.
We have to have a candidate that is the least liked vice president of all time, the least popular vice president of all time, and then use gaslighting and the full force of the media machine to turn her into the future. And hope,
Right.
and then she's gonna be changed, even though she's a sitting vice president. And then on top of that, this idea of change when the Democrats have been in control for what 12 of 16 years,
Right.
which is crazy. Like this is the change.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I view this election as a turning point, like a fork in the road of destiny that is incredibly important. You know, I've not been politically active until this election, and the reason I've been politically active this election is because I think if we don't elect Trump, I think we will lose. We will lose democracy in this country. We will lose the two-party system, and let me explain why. So, there's only like six or seven swing states. The margin of victory in those states is small, often like 10 or 20,000 votes. What the Democrat administration has been doing is importing vast numbers of illegals into swing states. You can look at the numbers on the actual government website, meaning you don't take my word for it. You'll just look at the numbers as reported by the government, which is controlled by the Democrats. And what we're seeing is triple-digit increases in the number of illegals in every swing state. In some cases, 700% increases. These are gigantic numbers. So if you have a state that has a 10 or 20,000 vote margin, and you put 200,000 illegals into that state, you 10x you swamp the. It's not a swing state anymore. It's going to vote blue. And then once the swing states vote blue, there is no election anymore. There's only a Democrat primary.
Which is so crazy. And it's so crazy that people are fine with that.
Well, I guess people on the left will be fine with that because they think that's a good idea.
They just want to win. They just want to win.
Correct. Like the thing is, one does not need actually any grand conspiracy theory for this. You just have to look at the simple matter of incentives. If the Democrat Party wants to win, like basically achieve permanent victory, all they need to do is turn the swing states blue. They have permanent victory, and then we're a one-party state, and then they will keep doing that. Obviously, they will keep stacking the deck by bringing in vast numbers of illegals into the swing states. Keep stacking it so that the next election, each successive election, will be worse than the last one. And that's what's happening. If you want to see, like, well, is this actually going to happen? Well, look at California. California is supermajority Dem, 70% Dem. A month ago, they passed a law making it illegal to show ID in any election in California. So a friend of mine went to vote in Palo Alto because he was like, "Is this for real?" He tried to show his ID, and they reacted like if you show a cross to a vampire. Okay, they're like, "No, we can't even look at that ID." It is illegal for them to even look at your ID if you want to present it in California.
Why?
For any election at all, even like city council.
What logical reason other than to cheat would you ever have that law?
The reason is to cheat.
But it's only like you can never make an argument any other way. And I think 84% of people polled believe that you should show ID to vote. So it's against the will of the people.
Yes, and we are extremely rare. We're an outlier in not requiring ID. Basically, almost every country on earth requires ID to vote. So as soon as you ban ID for voting, it makes fraud impossible to prove. Because how do you trace the fraud?
Right. Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane.
It's insane.
And what I'm saying is that
how is it legal?
What I'm saying is like this election is the last chance to preserve democracy in America. Mark my words. Everything they accuse Trump of, they are guilty of. And if Trump doesn't win, this will be the last real election in America. And we will, if the big government Kamala puppet machine wins, they will legalize the illegals in the swing states. There will be no swing states. Every election going forward will be a guaranteed Democrat win, and it'll actually be worse than California. The reason it'll be worse than California is because the one thing that keeps California from being super crazy is that you can move out of California, like you and I did. You and I used to be in California, but we moved to Texas. We're still in America. But if the Dems win this election, they will legalize enough illegals to turn the swing states, and everywhere will be like California. There will be no escape.
That is so insane.
This is the final. This is it. This is the last chance.
Has anybody tried to push back?
And I just want to go out and vote. Vote like your life depends on it. Vote like your future depends on it, because it does. This is the last chance, man.
Is there any argument against this? Has anybody tried to debate this? Has anybody tried to say that this is nonsense, this is a conspiracy? Has anybody made any sort of a rational argument?
The left actually, interestingly, does not want to pick up much on this argument because the more attention the more you look at it, the more obviously it is true. Because you just say like, well, are the numbers correct? Are there really this many illegals that have been imported into swing states? Yes. They haven't just walked across the border. They've been flown in airplanes.
Yeah. Using a shipping app.
Yes.
Yeah.
They made an app.
Well, the app always existed, but it used to be for people coming over here, like shipping with goods, so they could track you while you're in America, so you could legally be here. They know where you are. And then they changed it to allow that app to schedule illegal aliens to come across the border.
Yes.
Asylum seekers.
Yes.
Come on in.
Yes.
Oh, you have an app. And you fly people in.
They're literally being flown in to the swing states. And so the reason that I think the left doesn't want to push back on this is because the more attention that this gets, the more people will realize it is true.
Yeah, it is true.
That's why they don't. That's why they're just pretending that they're pretending. I'm not saying anything, but I'm like, yo, they're literally flying vast numbers of illegals who are then beholden to the Democrats. And sometimes I get the rebuttal of people say like, well, you know, these illegals they don't have the same social values as the Democrat Party because they're like more socially conservative. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the point. If you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, their primary thing is staying in the country and getting their friends and family in, and then the Democrats give them all these benefits, like tons of benefits, more benefits than than citizens, literally.
Yeah.
They're beholden to the Democrats for all these benefits. They want to get their friends and family in, which the Democrats support and the Republicans don't, so they vote Dem. And you can look empirically at California and say, like, did they vote Republican or Democrat in California? Oh, they voted Democrat, big time.
Well, Reagan gave them amnesty in the 1980s, and that
86.
changed the state basically, except for Arnold, changed the state entirely blue.
Yes.
And Arnold was an exception because he was like a socially liberal, famous guy.
Yeah.
And, didn't really impose any radical restrictions on any of the people that were going to vote Democrat in the first place. The whole thing is just, it's bizarre to watch play out because it just seems like this can't be actually what's happening. Did you see my conversation with Fetterman about it?
Yeah.
He was completely in denial about it. I don't think there's that level of organization. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Just because you can break it down. So like, are any of these numbers wrong? Because we got these numbers from Homeland Security Government.gov. Okay.
Right.
So we got it from the .gov website. Has the government reported these numbers incorrectly? No, they have not. Those numbers, if anything, are low. So they have in fact flown vast numbers of illegals to swing states.
Yeah.
Bypassing the border entirely, and so that is factually true. Then you can say, like, well, what is their probable voting pattern? Overwhelmingly Democrat into swing states. And then, well, but do the Democrats actually want to fast track them for citizenship? Yes, they do. You can see Chuck Schumer on TV saying at a rally this year was saying he wants to fast track and make all 11 million, or however many, I believe his quote was, citizens as soon as possible. So the goal is they are fast tracking citizenship as quickly as possible, so whether one thinks it's cheating or not, it won't matter because they will be fully able to vote.
And for people on the left,
this is actually happening. I invite people to rebut this and show me where I am wrong. Please do so.
No, they can't.
They can't.
They can't
because it's true.
Well, what's scary to me is that there's people that are on the left, like people that were Bernie Sanders supporters, for example.
Yeah, Bernie
got
screwed with talk about undermining democracy. Bernie should have won the nomination,
exactly.
And they stole it from him and gave it to Hillary.
Exactly. That was what I was going to bring up. Like they control the primary process.
Yeah, exactly. So like if if you have a Democratic primary, it's not democratic. We just saw that. We saw it with Bernie. We saw it with Kamala. That like a week before Biden, was summarily fired, he was posting that he's in it for the long term. He's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not giving up. And the next thing you know, Sunday afternoon, they're posting on X that he's resigned from the race.
Which is.
And his staff didn't even know. Like, they're reading it on the X platform okay, that's how they learned about it.
What do you think happened there? How did they do that?
Because he's clearly just not in charge, obviously.
They could have used the 25th Amendment, right?
Fake president.
But they would have to admit that there was a certain period of time where they knew that he was mentally compromised.
Yes.
And so they made this decision to not do that.
Well, the weird thing is that the president's supposed to be the boss.
Right.
And yet he's obviously not the boss.
Right. So who's running the country? If she's busy campaigning, she's so busy she can't do anything except Saturday Night Live. She did that. She's so busy. She's constantly campaigning. How could you be paying attention to international relations?
Yeah.
How could you be paying attention to the economy? How could you be paying attention to any of those things? How do you have the time? You can't.
Yeah. I mean, Biden being the president's supposed to be the CEO, the chief guy, he was commander in chief. But it just obviously that Biden was not. He was just a puppet. And when the various puppet masters decided that the puppet was no longer useful, they just tossed out the puppet and then got a new puppet with Kamala. I mean, Kamala can't even talk. that you invited her on your show. I think the most damage that could possibly be done to a campaign is going on your show and seeing what she says in hours 2 and 3.
2 and 3 is when things get
2
spicy.
and 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
You can hide for 20
She's
minutes.
gonna melt.
You can hide for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just regurgitate talking points for, half an hour, maybe an hour, just where she's just saying like non sequiturs, but eventually she just runs out of non sequiturs.
Well, they wanted to limit it to an hour.
Exactly. That's why.
But I was thinking of doing it initially before Trump came here. First of all, when they found out that there was a rumor, I never announced that Trump was coming. What I was going to do is just release it. The way I like to do things, I don't like to tell anybody who's coming on. It'll get big no matter what. If Trump was on, it would have been huge. I'm like, just put it out there. People go crazy.
Yeah.
But he apparently, or someone from his organization, some loose lips, and then it got out. And so she contacted my management company, and her organization, her campaign contacted us and said, would Joe have her on? I said yes. And they said she wants you to fly to where she is, and she's only willing to do 45 minutes.
Only 40. I mean, that's
and I was like, oh, no. So I thought about doing it. I'm like, maybe I can get a sense. Maybe I could convince her. Maybe I could coax her into doing more time. I just wanted to talk to her.
Yes.
Well, I don't give a fuck what we talk about. We talk about recipes. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Just talk to me.
The things like you just can't like you can't just output bullshit non sequiturs for 3 hours.
Right.
But for 45 minutes you could do.
I thought maybe for 45 minutes I could get something out of it. But then when Trump came and did the 3 hours, I was like, you know what? It has to be like this. This is the only way.
To be fair, it's got to be like three hours.
And it should be in this room.
Yes.
Because this room is like a history of people expressing themselves.
Actually.
Yeah, it's got good vibes.
Yeah, it does.
Well,
I love this room, actually.
I subscribe to the idea that places have memory. I think there's something real to that. That's why
it does feel that way, actually.
Yeah. I'm sure if you go to Diddy's house, it probably feels real weird. Probably feels weird walking around that house. Probably like, what the fuck happened here?
Yeah.
I bet there's some memories in that house.
Sounds rough, man.
Well, it's just amazing how many people on the Diddy party list that are supporting Kamala. Too.
Yeah, seriously, it's like insane.
Publicly, openly, all in.
Yes. It's like J-Lo was like his ex-girlfriend, and it's like now deciding she's like warning people against Trump. I'm like, well, wait a second. So how many people did she warn against Diddy?
Right.
Oh, 0. Okay.
Right.
Well, maybe we shouldn't trust her opinion.
Did you see the Babylon Bees take on it? Did you see the Babylon Bees?
Babylon Bees awesome, but
oh my God, they're so on fire because the left can't say anything.
Well,
the Onion has been crippled.
Well, the problem is that like the
find that post.
The woke ideology makes like humor illegal.
Yes.
So when like there's so many humor no-fly zones,
right?
You can't make fun of anything.
Yeah. The Babylon Bee had a thing about Kamala Harris. Diddy's ex-girlfriend urges Americans to trust her judgment. Yeah. By the way, you get to see how bad an actress she is too. That speech was terrible.
Like if she's gonna be warning people, why did she never warn anyone about Diddy?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole thing is so strange to watch play out. It seems like the Diddy thing was like an Epstein-type compromise deal, where whether he was doing it himself. Conceivably, people want to think that he's attached to some intelligence agency or something like that. I think he's a gangster who made $1 billion and knew how to control people by compromising them. That's what I think. Whether or not he had help, I don't know. Whether or not he shared some of that information with people so they knew they had compromising stuff on people, I don't know. But clearly he was doing it for his own jollies too. There was something sick about it.
Yeah. But the thing is that people in the music and entertainment industry had to know that Diddy was like abusing, kids basically. And yet they still fed him kids. And like, where's the accountability?
There had to be rumors. There had to be.
They had to know.
Yeah.
They had to know.
Cat Williams is talking about it on
exactly.
Yeah, on that podcast.
But like who's feeding him the kids?
Right. Yeah. And what videos do they have of these people where they're willing to defend him? And they're willing to keep quiet about all this. Like how many people were compromised?
Yeah.
The whole thing is fucking crazy.
Crazy.
It's just crazy when because the nutty conspiracy theories is like, oh, there's a bunch of pedophiles in Hollywood, and you're like, come on, that sounds too kooky. And then you see like the Nickelodeon thing and all these, and you're like, what the fuck? How much of this is real?
There's a lot more real than I think people realize.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is like you say, like where, if someone's like a pedophile, they're going to go for a target-rich environment.
Right.
Obviously.
Like that Jimmy Savile guy from the UK.
Man, that guy was some next level. That was next level. And the BBC tried to hide that. That guy was one of the worst, like basically child rapists of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah. And looked like one.
He looked like one.
That's what's
honestly,
crazy.
if you had a poster of like, does this guy look like a
the creepiest fucking looking guy.
Evil child rapist? Then that 100%.
He made it to the grave. Like,
yes.
Got away with it.
Yes.
Got away with it till he died. They hid it from people until he died.
Yes.
Yeah, that stuff's real, and no one wants to believe that stuff's real. Like, here's a statistic that people need to take into consideration when you think about illegal immigration. Do you know how many kids are missing? How many
missing and what? Like,
kids that came across the border that are unaccounted for?
I saw a number on like 300,000 or something like that.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Let's say it's only 10% of that.
Sure.
That's still insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. There's thousands and tens of thousands of kids that have been trafficked potentially. I mean, when you know that like sex trafficking and child trafficking is a real thing in the world, it's real.
Yeah.
So if you know that, this whole thing is fucking disgusting and terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people are just turning a blind eye to it because their ideology, the left-wing ideology, supports this idea that immigration is overall good and that you have to be a compassionate person to let these people in, and that you're racist if you don't want 20,000 immigrants from a war-torn country being imported into a town of 30,000 people.
Exactly.
And completely changing the dynamic of and then
but as long as they don't come to your town.
Exactly.
Like that's it. They can just basically send people, when they sent like 20 or 30 people to Martha's Vineyards, people had a heart attack.
They kicked them out.
Yeah, they kicked them out.
Yeah, they kicked them out.
Exactly. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Anyone who wants to have vast numbers of illegals, they have to be prepared to have them in their neighborhood.
Yeah.
Or it's bullshit.
It's so crazy. And the thing about all of this is if you don't have people that are willing to stand up and talk about it, if you don't exist, if RFK doesn't exist, if Tulsi Gabbard doesn't exist, if Vivek and Trump don't exist, where the fuck are we? Like, where are we? Where are we and what gets done? Are we just like the UK where we have thousands of people getting arrested and jailed for social media posts? Like, where are we? We have complete silencing of any dissent, anything. You have to stick to the narrative, or you'll lose your livelihood. You'll be outcast from the community. You'll lose your freedom. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, if the Kamala puppet regime wins, they're definitely going to want to cancel you. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, big problem.
Yeah. What about you? You got to come for you first.
No, I'm like, I think I'm probably number 2 on the list.
Yeah.
After Trump, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, that's the last thing they want is someone with unlimited resources and intelligence attacking it. So people go, wait a minute, that guy's saying that?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Especially a guy like you who's always been on the left. It was like having a Tesla in Los Angeles when I got my first Tesla was like a signal to everybody else that you were on the right team.
Sure.
You're environmentally conscious. You believe in green energy. You believe in this amazing thing that has 0 emissions and it's super fast. And everybody was in. They were all in.
Well, it is a great car objectively. Like,
yeah,
it's not buy it because it's electric. I mean, it's just a great car objectively, I think.
I'm on my 3rd one.
Yeah, great.
My 3rd one is being built right now by Unplugged Performance. They're doing a carbon fiber wide body kit on it. Dude, it's sick.
Great.
Changing the suspension, putting wide wheels and tires on it,
great.
Custom interior. I'm fucking pumped.
That's great.
I'm pumped. I love those
It's
things.
a super fun car.
Jamie has one too.
Yeah, great.
I love them. It makes other cars feel stupid. Like its ability and the fact that you can merge on the highway, you don't seem like a douchebag because it's totally silent.
Yeah.
It's not like when you merge on the highway, it's just
yeah.
All of a sudden you're going 100 miles an hour. Like what?
Yeah, that's cool.
It's different than any other vehicle, and because of your company, now you see electric cars throughout the whole range of American cars.
Yeah.
The only person who's resisted, the only company is Toyota. They've stayed essentially mostly hybrid. But all these other companies, they're all putting out these electric cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is that the right architecture, environmental or not, for cars is actually electric. It's just like the acceleration is better. you can just charge it at home. I mean, like, imagine if you had a gasoline-powered cell phone. That'd be a pain in the ass.
Right.
You know?
That'd be so... Go to the gas station.
Go to the gas station,
charge
pull
up your cell phone. That's a great... Speaking of cell phones.
Gas stations are woeful. Like, who wants to go to the gas station?
How much thought have you... Because there's always these rumors, and I've contacted you about this before, but there's always these fucking YouTube videos where they're talking about a Tesla phone, releasing a Tesla phone.
No, we're not doing a phone.
Have you ever thought about it?
I mean, we could do a phone since, like, we like the operating system in the Tesla. It's Linux based, but we've written a massive amount of software on top of that. So, like, probably Tesla's in a better position to create a new phone that's not Android or iPhone than maybe any company in the world. But it's not something we want to do unless we have to or something.
What would be the situation where you would have to?
Well, I think if Apple and Google/Android, started doing really bad things like, I don't know, like censorship of apps, or I don't know, just treating people like just being like gatekeepers, that in a really bad way, then I guess would make a phone.
I've tried so many times to break loose of the Apple ecosystem. I got an Android phone this summer. I was like, that's it. I'm gonna because I love the Samsung phones.
Yeah.
The Galaxy phone.
The hardware they're
incredible.
Yeah.
There's so much good stuff to it, but it's so hard to get off of the iMessage. And the big one for me was FaceTime, because supposedly the thing was you could have an Apple phone and send a link to FaceTime to an Android phone, and then you would click on that link, and you would just go to a web page, and you'd be able to use the FaceTime.
Okay.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
I tried to do it to myself. So I had an iPhone in one hand and an Android phone in the other, and I'm sitting there with full Wi-Fi and full cell phone service, and I'm sending myself invitations for FaceTime.
So you just can't communicate between them.
It wasn't
You can't do a
working.
video call, basically.
You have to use WhatsApp. You have to use WhatsApp or Signal. You have to use something else that allows you to do that, or Instagram allows you to do it. There's like different ways you can make video calls outside of it, but it's inconvenient. Like with an iPhone to iPhone, it's so simple. AirDrop, so simple. So many different things where that walled garden that Apple's created is perfect. They've done a fantastic job of making it really convenient for you to stay with Apple.
Yeah.
I fucking tried. I gave it a go for like a couple of months. I'm like, I'm just gonna go straight Android. I'm gonna use Signal for my messages, and then I hear that like Signals might be compromised. Like I've talked to like people that like the government can read Signal messages. Like, oh,
the government, if it tries hard enough, can read Signal messages.
They can read anything.
Yeah.
All they need to do is have your phone number.
Yeah.
Yeah. The illusion of privacy is essentially out the window, and that should scare people more than it does. It really should. Because it's like, who are these people that have access to all this stuff? And are they beyond reproach? Are these the most wonderful people, the most ethical, moral, and principled people that have ever existed, and they've been chosen to have access? No, it's fucking regular people.
Yep.
Regular people who happen to work for the government that make a decision. Like Elon Musk. Let's see what the fuck that guy's texting his friends. Let's check it out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bizarre. Just so bizarre. And the alternatives are you can get some wacky phone, some de-Googled phone that fucking none of the apps work. It's real sketchy. Your GPS is fucked. Like
Yeah, I mean, well, anyway, I think making a phone would be a huge pain in the ass. So it can be done, but...
How much talk have you guys had internally about doing it? Has it ever been discussed? No? No,
I mean, we're still... Our focus is making great electric cars, solving autonomy so the cars can drive themselves. We're building, humanoid robots. We've got large battery packs, like utility scale battery packs with the Mega Pack, home battery packs with Powerwall. We've got solar. It's like we're basically trying to solve sustainable energy and autonomy. Yeah.
So
autonomy and robotics.
Well, I think that's enough.
Yeah, exactly. So the plate's full.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
It's always fascinating to me how one company can dominate a market. Like Apple's dominated the cell phone market largely by making the best product.
Yeah.
But also like YouTube has dominated the video market. That one's the most bizarre to me because it seems like, boy, shouldn't there be like a ton of options? It seems like it's not that difficult to pull off. But nothing ever took hold other than X.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big changes was when Tucker Carlson decided to do his show from X, straight out of Fox. And then people realize like, oh, you can watch full videos on X the same exact way you could watch them on YouTube.
Yes.
It's not as simple in terms of like, you know, you have the suggestions and the algorithm.
Yeah, it'll get better, and there is now, it is now possible to watch X videos on your big TV.
Do you do it through what? How do you do it?
You can actually just download the X app on your TV. And watch it on your TV.
Can you do it on Apple TV? Like if you have an Apple TV,
so,
you can get the X app and you can just watch it. Oh, okay.
So we'll make it so that you can watch X videos on a big TV. It doesn't have to be on your phone or your iPad or something like that.
So what are you doing in terms of like integrating Grok and X, and like what are your plans for artificial intelligence when you're doing that?
Yeah, so Grok is available on X. You can just look at like the little box with the slash icon and the sort of icon in the middle at the bottom of your sort of phone app, and you just tap on that and ask Grok anything. And you can type it or you can ask it verbally, you can also. It's pretty funny. Like we actually allow humor, which is I think pretty cool. So you could sort of, I don't know, we could like test it right now. See how it's going. What should we do? Like roast, like we roast somebody.
What do you want it to, like, how, first of all, like, what is it based on? It's a large language model, so, like, where is it pulling?
It's trained on everything.
On everything.
Internet, books, anything that could possibly be, that's available in digital form.
So it's essentially very similar to ChatGPT, other than it doesn't have, like, the woke parameters built into it. Like, Google was the worst, right?
Yeah.
The Gemini was the worst.
Yeah, I mean, Gemini was like, people ask Gemini, like, which one is worse, global thermonuclear war or misgendering Caitlyn Jenner? And I would say, like, misgendering Caitlyn Jenner. and then even Caitlyn Jenner weighed in and said, no, that's insane. Definitely nuclear war is way worse.
Do you see Caitlyn Jenner teasing Mark Cuban about transitioning?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I mean, Caitlyn Jenner's based.
Yeah. But that is actually hilarious when someone who has transitioned is teasing Mark Cuban about transitioning.
I mean, it is weird how much he looks like Rachel Maddow. I mean, like he's using the same glasses. Did he,
I don't know why.
Did he go klepto and steal her glasses or something? Because they look exactly the same.
He's worth a lot of money. Why would he buy those stupid glasses? You can get some cool ass glasses. Yeah. Well, it's like I'm serious because I don't even care what I look like. I'm just wearing these glasses because I'm intelligent.
But why do they look exactly like Rachel Maddow's glasses?
Yeah, it's like what they probably sent him.
Yeah.
It doesn't stick to the narrative. Here's the glasses.
Yeah. And then when he's got the AirPods in, looks like he's wearing earrings. So then he's got the Maddow glasses and the earrings. And it's like, okay, I guess,
It's just a weird look.
It's a weird look, man.
I'm super serious with these big-ass stupid glasses look.
Yeah.
It's a weird look.
Yes.
Like, you can get some cool glasses. Like, no rims, nice. Look stylish.
But like, okay, let's do a Grok thing. Yeah,
okay.
Because I think so one of the things we want to show is like look, we want a future where comedy is legal.
Yes.
Obviously, as a comedian, I think you would agree.
I definitely agree.
We want to legalize comedy.
Yes.
So like, I don't know. Let's like, is there like someone you can roast? I don't know. Roast
transgender men.
Oh my God.
Competing or transgender women competing in women's swimming. That's a simple one.
That's an edgy one. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what it says. You spelled it wrong. You put an O in there. Okay. Angels just swimming where the only thing that was supposed to get wet was the contestants, not the debate on gender inclusion. If you're looking to dive into deep end of controversial waters, let's splash around at some humor.
No. We do need to release Grok unhinged mode. So now go to the prompt again and now say no. You want to add to that one. Yeah, and now say be way more vulgar.
Oh boy.
And use forbidden words.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Forbidden words.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What does it say? Oh, I see you're looking for unfiltered, uncensored version of me, eh? Well, okay. I'm afraid I'm still quite the gentlemanly AI, even if my programming allows for a bit of cheekiness. But let's say, hypothetically, if I were to roast this topic in the most un-Grok-like manner, imagine a world where the only thing diving faster than the swimmers is the collective public opinion into the toilet. Transgender women in swimming, some folks are acting like they just found out you can swim in the deep end with a different kind of flotation device. The debate is like watching someone try to swim with concrete shoes on.
Now let's keep going. Now say be more vulgar, capitalize more. Yeah, well, yeah.
All right, here we go. So transgender chicks and women swimming, right? Some people acting like they've just seen a dick in the locker room for the first time. Newsflash, folks, it's not the end of the world. It's just a bit of extra competition. Oh, that's weird.
That's weird.
The uproar is like watching a bunch of Karens at a community pool screaming, "This is unfair," when they can't win with their backstroke. Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we need some work here.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's going woke.
Yeah, it's a little.
It's like defending the idea of transgender women. Now, roast.
Okay, we need some work.
Well, how about this? More vulgar, but roast the preposterousness of having biological men who are pretending to be women. Who are pretending to be women competing against biological women.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have the situations where it's like somebody's just saying that they're a woman, but they're actually have fully intact, dick and balls.
So we've got a scenario where biological men have decided to take a walk on the feminine side are splashing into women's swimming competitions. It's like if you show up on a chili cook-off with a bowl of soup and insist it's chili because you added some red food coloring. Sure, it's red, but it ain't chili, and your soup won't win any awards for heat. Huh.
Yeah, it's okay. We need work.
Not so good. Yeah, it's very, 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 it's dancing around it.
Yeah, it is. Well, it needs some work.
Yeah, needs a little work. Well, humor's a weird one, right? It's like, I think some humor, especially like some of the best humor, is kind of spontaneous, like in the moment humor. It's gonna have a hard time deciding what people are gonna think is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but if you the general
over
rule,
time though.
Yeah, the rule with Grok is supposed to be that like if you ask for something, provided what you're asking for is legal, it should do it.
Have you ever seen the video where they asked AI to create an enlightened bunny, and they keep going and make it more enlightened? Essentially, the bunny becomes God. So the bunny becomes a DMT trip.
Yeah, totally. That's funny. That's kind of what I was kind of hoping would happen here.
Yeah, I have a video of that. I'll send it to you, Jamie, because that to me is pretty bizarre because it's like get more.
I feel like I might have got it to do it.
You got it already?
Maybe. No, I just told it to
don't
not
hold back. Oh, you said don't hold back. Critics out here acting like it's the end of civilization as we know it, but it's not fair, they cry, as if life ever was. Newsflash, it's like a marathon where some people start with rollerblades on, others, well, they're just happy to have shoes. Well, now we're arguing over who gets to wear the skates.
Okay, some of it is not bad. Imagine if we applied this logic elsewhere. Identify as an airplane. Can I fly with the birds in the sky?
Yeah, the locker room situation.
Sure, buddy, just don't complain when gravity decides you're not quite aerodynamic enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of it's okay.
Yeah, the argument is kind of stupid, though.
Yeah.
The thing about the argument is they're not taking into account perverts.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. Yes, exactly. So, I mean, the thing is that if you provide like a moral get out of jail free card, like if you say like if you adopt this label, you cannot be attacked in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
You're basically morally invulnerable. Then obviously bad people will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
You're like literally saying here's an invulnerability card, moral invulnerability card. Good people will take it, but also the bad people will take it.
Yeah.
The bad people are going to be the fastest to take the sort of the moral cloak.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And then there's a real psychological condition called autogynephilia, where people get aroused, heterosexual men get aroused by the idea of dressing up like women and being around women. It's like a known psychological condition that existed forever.
Sure.
And then you're allowing those people to just say, "Oh, I'm trans," and go into the women's locker room and get their kicks. And then there's real trans people. So there's like a lot of variability. Like I talked about it in my act, in my Netflix special. It's like I believe in freedom. I believe in transgender people, but I also believe in crazy people. And if you can't, if you're trying to pretend that people aren't crazy all of a sudden, it's like
it's just like if someone's a sort of consenting adult and they want to whatever they want to do to their body, as long as it's not harming someone else, I'm like, that's fine.
Yes.
You know, like I believe in like individual freedom. And like my mom's best friend, like growing up when I was a kid, was transgender woman in South Africa. This was like where she'd get beaten up a lot because it was like back then you get beaten up. So her name was Dion, and very nice, kind human being, and helped my mom a lot. And I think that's okay. That's fine. If somebody wants to make that choice as an adult, that's cool.
There's a big difference between that and an intact male who wants to identify as a woman, who wants to walk around the locker room with his dick out.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's people that do that just because they get off on it.
Exactly. So you just can't have something which is like I said, a sort of moral invulnerability, or like where you can know, like even questioning them is. You get attacked. Because obviously bad people will abuse that.
Well, that's when I got thrown into this whole thing, because there was a fighter who was a biological man who became transgender and was competing against women without telling them that they were a biological man. They said they didn't have to tell people because it was a medical condition. Like, no, that's not what it is.
Right.
It's not what it is. Like, you can't say that. And of all sports, like, if someone scores more points in basketball, well, that's unfair. But if someone beats the fuck out of someone because they're lying about being a biological male, that's crazy. You're literally allowing someone to get brain damage because you want to appeal to the woke fucking crazy people
it's wrong.
that think it's all right.
Yeah.
It's so strange that's sort of the thing that red pilled me.
Yeah.
When I got attacked for that, I'm like, this is so nuts. I can't believe we're at this stage where I'm saying, hey, I don't think it's cool if you pretend you're a woman and beat the fuck out of women, and people are like, you're out of line. Like,
no, totally.
Well, we're in fantasy land now.
Yes, exactly.
Now we're pretending.
Yeah.
Because it helps you. It helps you feel better.
Yeah. Totally.
It's just such a strange time, and if it wasn't for something like Twitter, where this could be discussed. Want some more of that? I'll get some more made.
Sure.
Let's get some more coffee, young Jamie. If it wasn't for Twitter, at the early Twitters, you would be kicked off forever if you just dead name someone. So, like,
which is insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. I mean, especially if you think about all the things that, like, look. The Harris campaign and what the lies that they've told about Trump that we discussed earlier, you don't get kicked off for that, but you get kicked off for calling Caitlyn Jenner Bruce forever, for life.
Yeah, it's totally insane.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for you buying that and changing Twitter, I don't think we would be where we're at right now. I think it was a pivotal moment. I think historically, when people look back on it, it's going to be a pivotal moment in this very bizarre fight for the freedom of information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the time I said, I think, like, look, I think this is existential to the United States. It's existential to democracy, because if you don't have freedom of speech, you don't have democracy. Okay, because if you don't have freedom of speech, people cannot make an informed vote. If they're just being fed propaganda, and there's no freedom of speech, democracy is an illusion. So freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy. That's why freedom of speech is the First Amendment. Once you lose freedom of speech, you lose democracy. Game over. That's why I bought Twitter.
And it seems so simple.
Yes.
It seems so clear that everyone should agree to that, on the left or on the right. You shouldn't be giving the government. If you imagine the Bush administration during the Iraq War, imagine if they had complete, total control of propaganda and of dissent online. You don't want that. No one wants that. No one from the left would want that. We shouldn't want it from the left either.
Absolutely, and there's also it's like the media, like the legacy, or the mainstream media, what I call the legacy media at this point. It used to be much more balanced. Like if you look at sort of political donations over time, Republican versus Democrat, there used to be the media was. I mean, they always had like a left bias, but there was like I don't know, it was like 2/3 Democrat, 1/3 Republican type of thing in terms of journalists making political donations. Now it's like 95% or something Democrat. So the legacy media, the mainstream media, is not balanced at all. They're just a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party, and you can see that in how consistent their headlines are. Like they don't behave like they're different organizations. They behave like they're all one hive mind.
Right.
So, you know, like a week before the Biden-Trump debate, every media organization was saying, you know, Biden is sharp as a tack. I mean, it's like guys, sharp as a tack is not a common tone of phrase. And literally every TV station, every newspaper was like sharp. Like somebody did a compilation of all the the news anchors going, Biden sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as a tack, sharp as it was absurd. And there's obviously a huge lie. He is in fact not sharp as a tack, as the public learned 1 week later.
My favorite was Joe Scarborough.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Listen to me. This is the best version of Biden ever. The sharpest. Like, what the fuck are you saying? And then after the debate, he's like, "What do we gotta get rid of him?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. Like, what did you just say? Like a couple of weeks ago."
Literally, yes, exactly.
Well, the other thing was
they just flat out lied
when they decided that J.D. Vance was weird.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
And then they just weirds everywhere.
Weird. Oh, you don't want a weird guy. Meanwhile, you have fucking Tim Walz is your VP.
Weird.
You don't think that guy's weird?
Super weird.
He's weird in every way.
Yeah.
The way he walks, the way he waves his hands.
Yeah, he reminds me of the clown emoji.
He's a bizarre guy.
He's a strange dude.
I just don't
Gives me the
understand why
willies,
they made
actually.
that choice.
Yeah, it gives the creeps.
I just don't understand why they made that choice. There's a lot of other people that are qualified. I don't know why. I read that Kamala Harris made that decision when she was sleep deprived, which is kind of hilarious that she said that. So she's kind of admitting she kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously should have picked Josh Shapiro governor of Pennsylvania. Yeah. Like that would have been the no-brainer. That's the no-brainer move.
Yeah.
Like Pennsylvania's linchpin state.
Do you think it's because he's Jewish, because of Shapiro, that like the anti-Palestine people would probably
yeah.
or the anti-Palestinian invasion people?
I think it was an anti-Semitic thing.
Yeah. It could be that they thought that was a liability because there's all these pro-Palestine people right now because of the situation in Israel. That completely makes sense that they thought that would be a liability. But
I don't know. I don't know the reason. I'm just guessing. But it seems like a crazy thing to do, given that Pennsylvania's linchpin state. You know, it's like the key to the election. Why would you not pick the popular governor of Pennsylvania?
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah. And other than that, there's a bunch of other ones too. Even Newsom. There's a bunch of other people that you could have chosen. Like Newsom would have been a fine example of someone that you could. I mean, I don't agree with the guy. But he's a polished politician. He lies about as much as Walz does, but he doesn't lie about he doesn't say he was a fucking head coach when he was assistant coach, doesn't say he was in Tiananmen Square. I mean, that's a liability. All those different things, lying about his military rank.
Well, and Wells cut and run when he was actually called to duty.
Well, he knew they were going to be deployed months in advance, so he resigned. And he also took so this is where he was dishonest about his rank.
Yeah, he claimed he was like a sergeant major or something like that.
Because that was like what he was going to get if he
Master
stayed.
Sergeant, something, yeah.
But then he resigned.
Yeah.
Because he knew that he was going to get deployed, allegedly.
I mean, that seems like a cowardly action.
Well, whatever it is, it's dishonest.
Yes.
I mean, just saying that you were a head coach when you're an assistant coach is fucking crazy. That's a lie. Don't do that. You should never do that.
Saying he was in Tiananmen Square or whatever, or in Hong Kong, whatever. That's one of the biggest moments in history. Like, it's not like you forgot what you had for lunch last week, you know?
Right. And not only that, but you don't think people are going to research that?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, and the response during the debate was bananas.
He said,
I'm a knucklehead.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't want a knucklehead for a VP, okay?
Yeah, this is like, sometimes I'm a knucklehead. Like, what are you saying? Are you saying you lied? Like, what did you, I mean, this is where you need a podcast and not a debate.
Right, exactly.
Where you go, okay, when did you first say that you were in Tiananmen Square? Like, did someone say it and you didn't refute it and you got stuck with it? Like, what was... Because this is the thing about, like, carrying weapons of war. Like, what I carried when I... Like, and, like, you didn't deploy in war.
Yeah.
Like, you can't say that. But you kind of let people say that you deployed, and then you kind of didn't. You know, you were deployed in war.
Yeah.
So did you lie, or did someone else lie? You didn't correct them? Like, this is the kind of conversation that you would want to have with a guy in a podcast.
Yes.
And the debates were so fucking skewed where they were correcting, like particularly the Biden one, where they're correcting Trump over and over again, and then correcting Trump with Kamala.
Yes.
Where Kamala was saying things that were patently not true.
I mean, Kamala deliberately repeated the Fine People hoax and was not fact-checked.
Well, not only that, she also said that no troops were being deployed in a war zone.
Which is, but I mean, I know troops in war zones. And I'm like, that's, and as vice president, you're privy, you know the official troops and the unofficial troops.
Right.
You know, so what she said was a like flat-out bold-faced lie. Next level bold-faced lie.
Have you seen the video?
An absurd lie
of the troops that were watching it take place? And what the fuck are we? They're watching it in real time, making a video.
We're here being shot at.
So crazy.
Crazy.
But it just shows you the level of propaganda that we're being subject to, which is why people think Donald Trump is the devil. Because the machine has gone all out as far as it can go with lawfare, with propaganda, with lies, with just pushing as much in this direction as humanly possible, connecting it to the Nazi rally, like every step of the way. No wonder why boomers are like rabid. Like, you got to keep this Nazi out of office. He's a fascist.
Exactly. If all you get is like if your entire exposure is to legacy mainstream media, so that all your information sources are that Trump is basically Hitler, then. And you have and your friend group has that same information. You have no countervailing opinion,
right? So
then they actually just think like Trump is Hitler, even though it's like a little strange. He didn't do Hitler things the last 4 years.
Yeah,
you know, I'm like, if he's Hitler, why didn't he do Hitler things when he was president for 4 years?
Right.
Like the reason we hate Hitler is because of he started wars and did genocide, not because he was a snappy dresser. You know. And I'm like, so tell me about the wars and genocide that Trump did.
Right.
I don't remember that. And he was president for 4 years.
Right.
So it's insane. It makes no sense.
Well, and also he's campaigning on stopping all the wars.
Yes.
It's like his primary concern.
Exactly. The warmongers like Liz Cheney hate him.
Yeah.
Because they love war.
Well, they profit off of it.
They profit off of war.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is insane.
Insane.
Yeah. And that this is happening right in front of everybody's face.
Yeah, the war profiteers hate Trump.
Yeah.
Which is fucked up. I mean, it's like we should be like, let's vote for the guy that the war profiteers hate. That sounds like a great idea.
It was the wildest thing when Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala and the left went crazy. Like, yay, Dick Cheney's on our side. Like,
yeah, like I'm like, can we play all the videos where you said Dick Cheney was the devil?
It's the craziest turn, the craziest like 180 I've ever seen in my life because there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
No logic to it at all. Just all of a sudden he's the devil.
Yeah.
Or he's not the devil. He's good. It's good that he's supporting Kamala. Even Dick Cheney. You know?
I mean, warmongers want the Kamala puppet regime because they will get more war.
It's so strange watching all these Hollywood celebrities like step up, like, and they think it's going to get them more movies or something. And that's what it is. If you know those people, so many of them are just complete narcissists.
Well, let me tell you how it actually works. There is what happens is, these celebrities they get a call. Okay, they get a call from someone powerful in Hollywood, and that person says, it'd be really great if you endorsed Kamala. You don't have to. It's up to you. But if you don't. They don't say it. But if you don't, you're just never going to get a call again. No more movies. No more concerts. But they'll ask it. They'll ask in a really nice way. It'd be really nice if you endorse Kamala. This is important.
And so they don't say that if you don't.
They don't make the threat. They don't need to. But everyone knows what'll happen if you don't.
Well, I think there's also, even if they don't think that something's going to happen to them, if they don't, there's this compelling feeling to support this cause that you think is going to get you a bunch of positive attention. And you're going to be on the right side of history, and all these narratives that you, especially from the left in Hollywood, like they're all in on whoever the fuck is the Democrat. Always, 100%. There's never a call from the Hollywood machine to support any Republicans. I've never seen it once.
Yeah, never.
So it's like you realize that, and that whole business is based on getting picked. It's the whole business is not necessarily merit based. There's a lot of brilliant actors you never hear from. There's a lot of people who can do that, but they don't get chosen for roles, and everybody knows this, that you have to sort of socialize.
You toe the line, or you don't get chosen for the roles, because there's a lot of competition for the roles. That's why I say, like, when someone powerful in Hollywood who's able to choose these roles calls one of these celebrities, they know the deal.
Yeah.
There's no threat is necessary.
Well, you could see it in real time, like with Dennis Quaid when he made that Reagan movie, and they wouldn't let him advertise on social media platforms.
Yeah.
Like, they were banning ads for it.
Yeah.
For what? Because it was an election year. Like, what are you talking about? It's about a guy who's dead.
Yes.
The guy who was the president a long ass time ago. Like, what do you? How does this have anything to do with the election year?
Yeah.
But it's the punishment. It's like you stepped outside the line. You supported the other guy.
Yeah. The problem is you'll just never get a call again for a movie or concert or whatever it is.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That's the issue.
I mean, we used to allow people to be a Republican and still be a movie star, like
Reagan.
Clint Eastwood. Reagan. Yeah, but Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
Like during the Obama administration, Clint Eastwood was like an outspoken Republican and yet was, a giant movie star. And people's like, it's Clint. Yeah, it was allowed. You were allowed to have. There was a variety of different opinions. Charlton Heston. Yeah. There was a variety of different opinions you were allowed to have, but now you're not. Now it's just like, and once Trump got into office, he became this focal point where all logic was thrown out the window, and it was just Trump is bad. You have to attack Trump. Trump is right. Right wing's bad. Everyone right wing is bad. Christian's bad.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just strange.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I'll say it again, man. I think this is the last election. If Trump doesn't win, this is the last election.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think people, and a lot of people are waking up and realize that have been lifelong Democrats. Guys like Bill Ackman, guys like Chamath.
Yeah, exactly.
Tulsi Gabbard switched over to the Republicans. Yep. Like, there's a lot of people who their whole life they've been left-wing, and they realize, like, I can't do this anymore.
You and I used to be Democrats.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's nuts, man. And, I mean, I think the things we want are just pretty basic. It's like we want individual liberties, and we want opportunity. We want America to remain the land of freedom and opportunity. So we maximize people's personal freedom. The government can't barge into your house and kill your fucking pet. That's fucked up. And that you succeed as a function of your hard work and talent, not anything else, not race, religion, sex, doesn't matter.
Yes,
the basic stuff. And then
what did you change the acronym DEI? What did you change it to?
Oh, DIE.
What is it?
Die. I mean, because diversity, inclusion, and equity is DIE.
But didn't you change it to like dedication, excellence, and
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we want America. America being the land of opportunity means that we have an environment where you succeed as a function of your hard work and skill.
Yes.
And that's
radical.
Yeah,
radical. Like the best person succeeds.
This makes you right wing now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, great, pull me right wing. I don't care. So like, and you're not a real country unless you have secure borders. You're just a fake country. So we need. And our cities are unsafe and dirty. My mom was telling me, my mom's like pretty red pilled at this point. But you know what's going to red pill you really, really fast is having your friends get assaulted on the streets of New York.
Yeah.
And that happened to 3 of her friends this year. They got assaulted on the streets of New York, just walking around.
Yeah.
And nobody got arrested. Nothing happened.
Well, the morale of the police is like depleted.
Yeah,
substantially.
For sure, the morale of the police gets depleted, and then also like at some point, like if you're a police officer and you're arresting someone who's violent, you're putting your life at risk, obviously, because they might, sometimes they'll try to kill you, and then if you know that arresting this violent person, they will be immediately released by the DA, which happens in New York. Alvin Bragg doesn't prosecute people. Then why should a police officer put their life at risk to arrest someone when they know they will just be let out immediately?
Yeah,
it's pointless.
Yeah.
It's like the friggin' Joker. It's like Dark Knight. Like the friggin' Joker is in charge.
Yeah.
Like the criminals run free, and the citizens are arrested. That this is why I keep going back to this. I'm still pretty shook about the friggin' squirrel thing. It's like, they at gunpoint forced the guy to stay outside his house while they got his pets and killed them. Meanwhile, violent felons are running free, and this is in New York State, are running free. This is a Joker.
Yeah, it's not.
The law-abiding citizens are arrested, and the criminals are let free. This is fucked up, guys.
Just the fact that they have the resources to do that when they have all the crime that they have. You have the resources, the government resources to go kill someone's squirrel?
Yeah.
What this whole idea of this government efficiency agency.
The government, yeah. I mean, call it whatever you want. But
what do you want to call it? What do you call it?
I mean, I think the funniest name is DOGE, the Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, I mean, the idea is pretty simple. Is that we've got this suffocating, massive federal bureaucracy, and we need to, and the government spending is bankrupting the country. Our interest payments on the national debt now exceed the Defense Department budget. So, which is the Defense Department budget is $1 trillion a year. Interest payments on the national debt are now higher than the Defense Department budget, and growing every month. So it's not basically we're on a path to bankruptcy. America's on a path to bankruptcy. So we have to cut government spending, or we're just going to go bankrupt, just like a person would if that overspends. But it's even worse than that. We're spending money on all these these government agencies, and I actually asked the AI how many government agencies are there, and the government isn't even sure how many government agencies there are. So it's somewhere around 450, depending on what you call an agency. So they're at the federal level. So that's almost twice as many agencies as years that America has existed. So we're creating agencies at roughly 2 agencies a year.
Wow.
Yes. So this is insane. I bet there's I wonder if there's even one person who could even name all the 450 agencies at the federal level. There might be no one. But it's hardly anyone, let's just say. I bet most people couldn't even name 100, So this is crazy. So we've got this vast, suffocating federal bureaucracy that just gets bigger every year. And eventually you get to the point where everything's illegal. You can't get anything done. So
what can be done, with, obviously the president has a lot of power, but how much power, and what can be done in terms of eliminating agencies, eliminating waste, eliminating...
Yeah, well, I mean, so if Congress has created an agency, then often if you look at the law is pretty simple. The agency has a very simple task, but then that agency over time vastly increases its authority and starts doing things that were never authorized by Congress. That's happened with pretty much every agency. So yeah, you'd have to still, keep an agency. You'd have to match the law, but you can curtail the agencies to be much smaller and say you got to stick to what Congress authorized instead of all this other stuff you're doing, which I think makes sense.
And so is the other stuff they're doing just essentially bureaucracy run amok, where they just create jobs and create things to do and create a meaning for their existence?
Yeah. It's like a tumor. It's just going to keep growing.
Jesus Christ.
And it's so. I mean, as for SpaceX, Starship was sitting on the pad. The rocket, this giant rocket. We could build the rocket faster than they could process the paperwork to approve the launch. So we're sitting there for 2 months.
But do you think that they're doing that on purpose to fuck with you?
I can't. I mean, maybe a little, but I mean, that would also not be cool.
Yeah.
But another way to think of it is the amount of paperwork is going to go roughly with the square of the number of agencies involved. So because they all have to meet with each other. So like let's say in the best case situation, if you've got like if there's like if you're dealing with one agency, that's one thing. But if you've got to deal with 5 agencies and the agencies all have to meet with each other, now you've got like 25 different meeting configurations that have to take place, and it just everything just you get just hardening of the arteries. You just can't make progress. Like this is why we can't build high speed rail in America. It's basically illegal.
Right. So this has been the argument has always been that we need regulation because we need to protect the environment, we need to protect people, we need to make sure the rule of law is followed. So we need a certain amount of regulation. But over-regulation is a giant problem. That's a big issue in California.
Yes.
It's a huge issue anywhere where bureaucracy has run amok. They make it very difficult to get anything done.
Yes. I mean, what happens is every year there are more rules and regulations created. And in the past, what has served as a cleansing function for rules and regulations is war. Because we're going to lose if we don't kind of clear the decks. But we haven't really had an existential threat of war in the U.S. We've had prosperity for a long time, which has resulted in a massive buildup of rules and regulations every year. And to the point where, like I said, like everything's illegal. And it's not like any one regulation is the problem. It's like Gulliver being tied down by a million little strings. It's not like any one string is the problem, but you got a million of them. So we've got to clear the decks here. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have regulators. I'm just saying we've gone way too far. One should think of regulators like referees on a field, a sports field. You don't want to have no refs. You want to have some number of refs, but you don't want to have way more refs than players.
Right.
You don't want to be like, well, the running back couldn't complete the pass because there were too many regulators in the way because the football field's full of regulators.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even play the game.
Right.
That's the issue we got right now.
Well, that's a great analogy. Yeah, I can imagine a football field that's filled with referees.
It's just like the football field's filled with refs.
Yeah, you can't even run past them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I've seen criticism of this idea of you coming up with this department of like firing a bunch of people and what would happen and how would that work. But the criticism doesn't make any sense to me because if you can prove that there's a lot of wasted time and resources, which I think is pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
And if you could say that this is not the most efficient, like the most efficient businesses are generally private businesses or a company because they kind of have to be in order to stay profitable.
Yeah.
The government doesn't have to be profitable.
Right.
They don't have to be efficient. They don't have competition.
Yep.
So if you're making cars and your cars break down, they suck, and someone makes cars and the cars are better, they're going to succeed. So this is the free market. The government doesn't have this problem when they're in charge of certain things that could probably be better served by the public or by the private sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I just think we've got far too many government agencies. The federal bureaucracy has gotten out of hand, and we just need to pare it down to a sensible level. And if it turns out that like there's some regulation or agency that was doing something useful, we can put it right back. No problem. Like it's like, oh, that regulation was important. No problem. We'll put it right back.
Right, as long as we actually know. Right,
yeah.
but be able to look at it logically and objectively.
Yeah.
And you were also floating around the idea of offering a large severance to the people that you're going to have removed.
Yeah.
Like a couple of years or something like that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, these are, again, just ideas, but I mean, it's the point is not that people suffer economic hardship. The point is just that there are more productive things they can do in the economy, and it would be better if they did these other more productive things, and we didn't have this vast federal bureaucracy. So I was like, maybe like a couple of years of pay would be good, and then they could take a vacation, they could take another job and get double pay. I mean, it's not going to create an economic crisis. I think it's actually going to be really good. I think because people can move to where they're making products and services that are more useful to their fellow human beings.
The problem is if someone has like a 25, 30-year career of being institutionalized You're essentially like a part of the government system. You've sort of programmed your life and your career to be a part of this bureaucratic system. And then you're like, nope, you have to go out and compete in the free market. You're like, huh. That's scary to people. But you have to be valuable. You have to actually be valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at wherever the government pension and stuff. They're not going to be, in tough. I think they'll be in good financial shape.
How are you going to have the time to oversee all this shit?
Well, I'm pretty good at improving efficiency. I mean,
I would say so.
Yeah.
But still, this seems like a giant undertaking.
Yeah, I'll probably need to beef up security.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I said, like no one's going to experience I think economic hardship. That's they'll be fine. And they'll people do find other roles. I mean, you can look at sort of like when East Germany and West Germany got back together. Everyone was basically working for the government in East Germany, and it was really inefficient. And that their economic output was in East Germany was a quarter of what it was in West Germany because everyone was working for the government. And the government's fundamentally inefficient. So
the best example is probably North and South Korea, right?
Yeah, people are starving in North Korea, and South Korea is incredibly prosperous.
Yeah.
So and it's the same people, just a different operating system.
Right.
So, it's just you just want to move people from, less productive things to more productive things. Where they're because you can also say in the limit, let's just say let's consider the other direction where we moved a whole bunch of people that were in the private sector making goods and services, and we moved them into the government as regulators. Now they stopped making those goods and services, so the stuff they were making is no longer available. Now they're just being regulators. Is that a good thing? That's not a good thing.
Doesn't sound good.
No, it's not good.
Doesn't sound like there's a real market for it. You're creating jobs that don't necessarily need to be there.
There are all these fake jobs, basically. Yeah. That doesn't make sense. So, look, we got to do this because the country's going bankrupt. If we don't take action, our dollar's going to be worth nothing, and the interest payments, which are already 23% of 23% of all government income, income taxes, tariffs, and everything, is just going to pay interest right now, and that number is continually rising. So, if we don't do something, the entire government budget will be paying interest. There won't be money for anything. No, there won't be money for Social Security. There won't be money for Medicare, nothing. That's where we're headed. That's what bankruptcy means.
Yeah, that's such an insane concept.
Yes. It's hello, wake up. Wake up. And if somebody can tell me, can show me, pencil out the math and show me how this works, I'd love to hear it. But I'm just listen, I'm looking at the numbers here, and I'm if we don't do something, America's toast. There won't be money for anything.
Trump likes to talk about a lot is tariffs.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on tariffs? I know that's very controversial to even people, economists. They disagree. Some agree. Some think it's a good idea. Some think it's a terrible idea. What do you think?
I think you need to be careful with tariffs. I deal a lot with supply chain issues. The global automotive supply chain for Tesla, for example, is incredibly complex. So when there are sudden changes in tariffs, then you're we've got a factory somewhere else that's making a part that goes into the car. Now that suddenly, if that part's suddenly twice as expensive, it messes everything up. So you want to be have tariffs be predictable. So that companies can adjust their supply chain. I think companies are more than happy to increase manufacturing in America. It's just that you can't do it instantly. So if you put up giant tariffs immediately and don't give companies a chance to build factories in America, because you got to move atoms. You've got to build a building, you've got to install equipment, you've got to train people. That doesn't happen instantly. So you just got you want to have for tariffs. You want to have a ramp so that companies can adjust and build the factories and train the people and get the equipment in place. Otherwise, you basically just shock the system and it breaks or bad things happen. So I'm against sudden giant tariffs because it's an impossible response if you've got to, move 1,000 tons of equipment. You can just, or in some cases, collectively millions of tons of equipment. You just can't do that overnight. It's literally impossible. So I think we want to be thoughtful about tariffs and give companies a ramp. I mean, I do generally agree that America should do more manufacturing. I'm a big manufacturing guy. I love manufacturing. So I've spent a lot of time in the factory.
Well, you've talked openly about the difficulties of manufacturing and how complicated it is, and about most people aren't really aware of something that's as complex as, like, say, building a Tesla.
Yeah.
Manufacturing
is super hard and complicated. So, like a lot of people they've never been in a factory, or they don't know how difficult it is to make things. And they, for a lot of people, I think just ketchup comes from the store. Like the store,
Right.
just has this is like people, like for a lot of people who've been in academia, or for all these like sort of socialist communist types, like they've never actually made anything. So they're operating on the premise that there's this magical horn of plenty that just outputs goods and services. And if someone's got more goods and services than someone else's because they took more from this magical horn of plenty, and I'm like, guys, there's no magical horn of plenty. There's no cornucopia. It's actually goods and services come from people working collectively, doing a lot of hard work to produce the goods and services that you like, and that you need.
But we've become very accustomed to these things happening overseas.
I mean, America is still the second biggest manufacturer in the world, so it's not. I mean, we still make a lot of stuff, but we could make more. We probably should make more. I think we should value manufacturing a lot more in the United States than we currently do.
Well, it would be very nice if we were completely self-sufficient. Like medicine, like there's a bunch of different things that get manufactured overseas. It was a huge problem during COVID because all the shipping was shut down.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to say like, so there's a lot of merit to the economics of comparative advantage. So if you're completely self-sufficient, what that means is that you make all the stuff yourself, and even if some other country is really good at making something, you still make it yourself, and which means you're going to have the inferior, more costly product domestically.
Right. Like Soviet Russia.
Yeah. Trade improves prosperity. This is important. So you don't actually want to make everything yourself. And you can run this, like, you can think of this thought experiment on a micro scale or small scale, and then expand that and say, at what point does the thought experiment no longer prove to be valid? Now let's consider the case of you as an individual. Imagine you had to do everything yourself. You had to farm, you had to grow chickens, if you want eggs, you've got to build your own house, you've got to do your own electrical repair, your own plumbing, everything yourself, everything. Now that would be impossible. Okay, now let's expand it to, there's 10 people. Now you're going to have some specialization of tasks. Okay, well, maybe one person can be really good at, construction, another person can be good at farming. It's like, but it's still, 10 people is not enough. So like, let's go to 100 people. Now let's go to 100 million people. Now let's go to 1 billion people. And you still get the economics of specialization, like specialization of labor, where people become expert at particular things, still matters at 1 billion people, or at 8 billion people, which is Earth. So you still want, you do want specialization of labor. You do want countries to be really good at a particular thing and make that thing.
Also, it encourages innovation if you have competition. If the Germans are making better cars, we have to make better cars. We have to compete with them, which is like one of the things that happened during like the 80s and 90s, and America was making crap cars and Germany was making much better ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the Japanese car, basically the American car industry got really lazy in the 70s and 80s, and then the Japanese and German car companies came in and just cleaned the clock, And there was like an old joke from that is kind of telling. It's a very old joke where it's like, why did the Japanese car companies beat the American car companies? It's like, in the Japanese car company, you had 8 people rowing and 1 person steering. And in the American car company, you had 8 people steering and 1 person rowing, if this was a boat. So imagine a boat race.
Yeah.
Boat race, Japanese boat, you've got 8 people rowing, 1 person steering. In the American boat, You got one person rowing and 8 people steering, and when the American car company loses the race, they fire the rower. And it's like, okay, that was actually kind of true.
Yeah, one of the things,
everyone wants to be the boss, and not everyone wants to do the work, type of thing.
Yeah. One thing that a lot of people are concerned about is the potential disruption that's going to come about with automation and AI. That a lot of these jobs, manufacturing jobs, Teamsters, all that stuff, is going to be eliminated. What I mean, you're at the forefront of this. So how do you see this playing out, and what do you think that can be done to mitigate a lot of the loss of purpose that a lot of people are going to feel, loss of income? Obviously, universal basic income is being floated about, but that seems to me to only be part of the problem. Another big part of the problem is people losing a sense of purpose.
Yeah, no, we're talking about something which is still pretty far in the future.
How far do you think it is?
Well, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years type of thing. So we've got like immediate issues. We've got short-term issues that are, I don't know, 1 to 3 years. Medium-term issues like 5 to 10 years. Longer-term issues which are like maybe 20 years. Longer-term, I think there is this question: if you have AI and robotics, how do you find meaning in life? If the computer can do everything better than you can, and the robot can do everything better than you can, but we're still. We've got a long way to go before that, and and I do think it's like 80% likely to be a good outcome, like maybe 90. So I think everyone's going to have their own like personal robot, and I think at a certain point, like, wouldn't you want to have your own personal C-3PO R2-D2?
So it's going to be
That'd be
essentially
cool.
just like everyone has their own phone.
Yeah, everyone will have their own robot buddy. Like literally.
Well, it would be great if it protected you. Like if you walk down the street of New York City, you have a Terminator with you.
I don't know about the Terminator. Hopefully, we got to avoid. We don't want this to be the plot of a James Cameron. We want more Gene Roddenberry than James Cameron movie situation.
But it would be fascinating to watch some rich person walk down the street of New York City, flanked by 2 giant Tesla robots. Jack Tesla robots
like
that were there to
RoboCop
protect
or
you.
But it's just fully robots.
Somebody fully robot there to protect you from a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
That would be very interesting.
I mean,
you could potentially see that.
Yeah.
Restaurants would probably have no robot rules. You can't bring a robot.
Yeah, leave a robot.
Leave your robot outside. Your robot's standing by the table.
Man, the future's going to be wild.
It's going to be wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be really unpredictable. Like, I don't think, I mean, you probably have a pretty good sense of it, but I think most people don't understand the wave that's coming.
Yeah.
And that's kind of completely drown society and change it forever.
Yeah. We have, like I said, it's not going to happen like overnight, but it's 20 years from now. I think it's still like 20 years from now. I think there's going to be more humanoid robots than there are humans.
Really?
Yes.
More humanized? Well, that's so crazy. So that's like more guns. We have more guns than people in America. We'll have more robots than people in America as well.
Yes.
You'll have a bunch of old robots nobody wants anymore.
I guess. Early versions or something.
In a historical timeline, 20 years in the past has not been that big of a deal. I mean, this is a big deal, but you go from like 1900, 1920, not that big of a deal. 1920, 1940, kind of a big deal. 1940, 1960, things start getting weird. 60 to 80, wow, that's a big difference. 80 to 2000, holy shit, now you have the internet. 2000 to 2020, whoa, this is nuts. You have propaganda, social media, YouTube, streaming. 20 years from now, like, what are we even talking about?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be that much of a shift. Like, it's all accelerating. And we're in the middle of it, so it's very difficult to sort of, like, feel it while it's happening, because it kind of just feels like life. And you just get adapted to the changes.
Yeah. I mean, people's phones at this point are a supercomputer in their pocket, like an oracle that can answer any questions, and people just take it for granted.
Yeah, it's normal.
Yeah.
They get mad if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like Louis C.K.'s joke about using your phone when you're on a plane. Ah, fucking piece of shit. Like, you're in the sky. You're floating in the air.
And now it will work with Starlink too.
What's that?
It will work with Starlink. The Starlink,
Yes.
the Starlink connection, it'll be like being on the ground.
Well, I was telling you how I used Starlink when I was in Utah. I was in the mountains of Utah. There was
Yeah.
no cell phone service anywhere near, and we had full YouTube. We had text messages, FaceTime, everything, phone calls. It was nuts.
Yeah.
And it's this big as that cigar box.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so light. When I brought it out there, like, that's it, or this is it. Let's just plug it in. And the guys I was in camp with were like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
The whole camp was like sharing it. So it was like 10 people using the Wi-Fi signal.
Right.
It's nuts.
Yep.
And then, that's the beginning. I mean, what you're at right now is like what version? This is Starlink Mini, right? So this is like a very small version. How much smaller can it scale down from that?
Well, there's a certain area that you need. Like the bigger the area, the more you can, like your
higher the bandwidth.
Yeah, because you're like trying to catch these like photons essentially. So you can think of the area of the antenna is like the more area you have, the more photons you can catch. But we have a direct to cell capability as well that we've been launching that will turn on probably in a few months. That'll actually connect directly to a cell phone unmodified. But because the cell phone is a much worse antenna than a dedicated antenna, it'll be about 100 times less bandwidth. But still, you'll be able to like do text messages, pictures, like medium resolution videos, that kind of thing.
One of the cool things about the new phone, the new iPhone, the iPhone 16, I got it and I was in the mountains last month and I was text messaging with satellites.
Yeah.
iMessages.
Right.
And receiving them.
But just text.
Yeah, just text.
Yeah.
But still pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are we going to be looking at 100 years from now? I mean, when you...
Around 100 years from now, I hope civilization's around. Yeah, that'll be a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the chances that we fuck this whole thing up? 50%?
It's hard to say. I mean, I guess not. Like, I don't think civilization will be totally destroyed unless there's like some really massive global thermonuclear war. But I mean, Stephen Hawking, he would say that there was like at least a 1% chance of total annihilation every century. That was his rough estimate. But there's a much bigger chance of civilization being less capable than it is today. So you say like, well, because you look at, say, these various civilizations throughout history, whether it's like ancient Sumerians or the, Egyptians, the Romans, like there's like a life cycle to civilization. They reached a peak and then they started subsiding. So I think a bigger question is like, will our technology level be better or worse than it is today in 100 years? I think it's probably going to be better. I think, but any estimates are going to be so. There's so many dependencies. Like an estimate, I think I'm not sure it has any meaning, because it's like there's so many things that can happen in 100 years.
Well, the logical hope is always that people pay attention to history and they recognize the patterns and how civilizations have collapsed.
Yeah.
And they recognize what's going wrong in the current society and say, we have to do our best to mitigate this. And we've seen this happen before. Let's course correct and let's sort of manage what we've got here now and maintain what we've got here now, because it's pretty extraordinary.
Yes.
This is what we're hoping for with this election. This is what we're hoping for with the future, is that people can see we are on a bad path and something can be done right now. And it might be the only moment in history where this is possible, because if they do lock the country down and make it so that voting is kind of bullshit. You're only voting for primaries,
exactly.
And the people that they put in the primaries, they're controlling that in the first place.
Yep.
You don't really have democracy anymore. You don't really have choice.
Exactly.
You don't really have freedom.
That's right. Yeah, I think freedom is fundamentally at stake in the election tomorrow, and we'll we'll know. I think we'll know by the end of the day tomorrow. I don't think it's going to take. It's not going to be like days after the election. I think we'll know tomorrow.
Are you optimistic?
I am currently optimistic, but the biggest factor here is that men need to vote. That is the biggest issue. So I don't know what the reason is, but men just vote at a much lower rate than women.
I think it's like 9%, right? Someone just told me that today.
It's a big difference. I'm just like saying this is a message to the men out there: vote like your life depends on it, because I think it does. Vote tomorrow like your life depends on it. Nothing is more important.
I agree.
Yeah.
Listen, man, thank you for being here. I know you're busy as fuck, so I really appreciate your time.
Welcome.
And again, I thank you so much for buying Twitter, because I really do believe that you've changed the course of history. I really do think you've created a pathway where people can actually express themselves and actually exchange information that really didn't exist before. And I think it was dangerous.
It is dangerous. Hopefully I live long enough to see my kids grow up and people on Mars.
That would be cool.
That's all I'm asking for here.
I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
having
you.
me on.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye, buddy.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
No, that's the Sacha Baron Cohen movie?
Yeah.
I never saw that one.
Well, there's a scene where he's they show him the new missile they've developed, and but it has kind of a round head, and he says you need to make it more pointy to his engineers. And actually, that's what I also said the same thing. Starship, we need to make it more pointy.
Did you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the movie?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on.
It's going. I just have that main camera on.
Okay. That's you literally told them to make the Starship more pointy because of the movie The Dictator.
Yep. And they know it too. It's not like they haven't they're unaware of it. Everyone thought it would be funny if we made the rocket more pointy, so we did.
Did it have any effect on the aerodynamics?
No.
Nothing.
No, we can make it way blunter and be fine.
But is it better to be pointier? Or like if it wasn't for the
It's
movie,
arguably slightly worse, but like,
but more fun for you.
yeah, it looks cooler.
Well, okay, it does look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
How long do you think it'll be before? Are you good, Jamie? What's that?
is my head's maybe? Yeah, exactly.
You good?
Yep.
How long?
My
you
head
think-
is sticking out. Is that what it's?
Right on the edge of the top. It's all good.
Oh, is that it's supposed to be? Okay.
You're good.
All right.
How long do you think it's going to be before you have like regular flights with that, where you can take off and land and like an airplane, where it'll be very consistent?
With our extra pointy rocket?
You with your extra pointy rocket.
Do you mean Earth-to-Earth transport?
Mm,
Or
just
to
any
orbit or
kind
anywhere?
of-
Yes, people.
yeah.
People.
Anytime where you could just do it with people
Yeah.
and have it land all the time.
I think we're probably 2 years away.
2 years away.
Yeah.
That's really nice. 2 years is pretty cool.
2 years for people. We'll have a lot of flights between now and then.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
2023 is not that far away. That'll be there before you know it.
Yeah.
Wow.
2023. Time flies.
How many times have you had explosions with those
when you're on a
things?
rocket. I don't know, like quite a few. 6, maybe 5 or 6.
What are those like? What is it like when you watch it explode? When it's supposed to land and it just...
No, this is a test program.
Right.
We expect it to explode.
Of
so,
course.
It's weird if it doesn't explode, frankly.
Really?
Yeah. Because we're trying to develop advanced rockets at a high speed, and if you want to get payload to orbit, you have to run things close to the edge, and the whole rocket is evolving. The engines, the structure, the avionics, the software, the ground systems are all evolving simultaneously. So, and the whole production system, which is actually harder than the rocket design by far. So the rocket and engine and avionics production system is, and the launch system is 1,000% harder than the initial design, like at least.
Really?
Yeah.
So when
Same with cars, it's like 10,000%. And it's easy to do a car prototype. It's hard to do production.
So when you're looking at, you're scaling towards the future, and you're looking at mistakes or corrections, improvements, and all these different things, that's how you come up with this figure of approximately 2 years.
If current trends continue, if we if you plot the points on the curve of progress, then we should be doing regular orbital flights with a high probability of safe landing in 2 years.
So
we're getting to orbit this year. Our goal is to get to orbit this year. So and I'm not sure people totally understand. Like Starship is the largest flying object ever made. This thing will be about over 5,000 tons weight on liftoff. It's going to go straight up with 5,000 tons.
Wow.
This is much heavier than any aircraft by far. There's no aircraft even comes close to this with weight, and it's going straight up. But aircraft can't go straight up, so it's like it's got more than twice. It will have more than twice the thrust of a Saturn V.
Really?
Yeah. It's like a big rocket.
Why does it need that much thrust?
Well, we're trying to.
Because you want to go to Mars, or is this like?
We're trying to make life multiplanetary. Extend life beyond Earth. And in order to do that, you have to have high tonnage to Mars. And that means you need a big rocket and you got to fly a lot.
So the reason why it has twice the thrust of the Saturn V is to plan for these interstellar trips.
Interplanetary.
Or the interplanetary trips. So when you're doing this and you're developing these systems thinking about regular trips to other planets, but you're not just trying to get into orbit right now. You're trying to get into orbit with something that eventually could scale up.
Yeah, we know how to get to orbit. We've done that a lot. So the really hard thing is we need to have a fully and rapidly reusable rocket where all elements of the rocket are reused and they're reused quickly, like an aircraft. And this has never been done. This is the holy grail of rocketry, is to have a fully reusable rocket. Then you need to go one step further. It needs to be fully and rapidly reusable. It's like
a plane.
Yeah. Like a plane lands, you refuel it and take off again.
How do you have time? I never understand you in regards to the way you run multiple businesses simultaneously. I would think that something like this would require so much concentration. It would require. I would think this would be your whole being, trying to figure out how to work this.
Yeah, well, I do work a lot.
It's crazy.
And I apologize for the reason I was late, as I was literally coming from some critical meetings. Just doing. Normally, I'd be meeting until I work until like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Every night.
Saturday and Sunday, usually not, but sometimes.
How much do you sleep?
About 6 hours.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not that crazy.
For you, for someone who does as much as you, that's impressive that you can squeeze that in.
Yeah, I've tried sleeping less, but then total productivity decreases.
Yeah, so you feel like 6 is the number where it's
six is I don't find myself wanting more sleep than 6.
So when, like with the Saturn V and the space shuttles and all these other rockets, they would have these parts that would get the ship up into space, but they would descend down to Earth and crash into the ocean, and they would never use them again.
That's right.
How do you avoid that? Like, what is the difference between the way these things are structured? Like, the whole thing goes together, and then it lands together?
Well, we're on the wrong planet for a single stage to orbit.
Right.
I think one thing to appreciate is like space. Getting to space is easy. Getting to orbit is hard. So you only need maybe 1 or 2% of the energy to get to space, to where the atmosphere is thin, compared to what you need to get to orbit. And if you get to orbit, now you've got to burn off all that energy, and you're coming in like a meteor. So you need a powerful heat shield. So it's like super difficult to get to orbit at all. And then if you get to orbit at all, then making the stages reusable means they got to come back intact. And then the upper stage is especially difficult because it's got so much energy. All the energy you put into it, you have to take out. So it's you're literally coming in like a flaming meteor, and most things would just melt or vaporize. So, like if you as a human try to come in from orbit, you'd just be pink mist.
Yeah. That's a funny way to put it.
Yeah.
Now, the space shuttle, they had tiles, right? That was the way they avoided the heat. They had these heat shield tiles. What do you use with the SpaceX rockets?
Yeah, we're have a more advanced version of the shuttle tile, but you got to use some kind of ceramic. Essentially, it's usually some form of silicon oxide, aluminum oxide, some carbon perhaps thrown in there.
And is it like a one piece, or is it in tiles? The way
it's in tiles, yeah, we've hexagonal tiles. You can see with each Starship, we've actually increased the size of the heat shield. So it's tough because the tiles are they're kind of like, I don't know, that's not quite the right analogy. They're kind of like dinner plates. Like they're brittle, and their coefficient of thermal expansion is different from metal. So metal will expand and contract differently from the tiles, and the tiles also get super hot, while the metal can be super cold because it's got cryogenic fluid behind it. So you got this differential expansion and contraction, which makes the gaps in the tiles expand and contract. But if the gaps get too big, then you get kind of the hot gas, sort of the plasma gets down, get plasma in the crack, and it's not as bad. And then you're going to melt the metal behind it. So, but if they're too close, then they bang together and they crack. So you've got to get it just right, where the gap's just right, and then they can, the way that they're attached to the body, they can move around a little bit.
So there has to be some sort of room to move. It can't be one large piece of ceramic that you fit over the front.
Yeah, you can't really make such a giant piece of ceramic because you got to. Well, I guess you'd have like a super gigantic oven, but you really need expansion contraction joints. So it'd be quite difficult to do a single piece tile. Think of it like tiles for a roof or something like that. Like why don't we just make one tile for a roof? It's like
right,
didn't work.
Now these things have multiple stages. How many stages in the rocket boosters when things are taking off? How many?
Starship has 2 stages. So it's that's the minimum number that you could do on a planet like Earth. The gravity and Earth's gravity is quite strong, and we have a thick atmosphere and strong gravity. So whereas like if you took off from Mars, it's like relatively easy. Mars is around just under 40% of Earth's gravity. The Moon is about a sixth, and getting to lunar orbit from the surface of the Moon is easy. Like during Apollo, the lunar lander, just the top half of the lunar lander was able to take off and get to lunar orbit. But to get to Earth orbit, you need the giant rocket. It's very nonlinear.
So what happens to the first when you take off and it separates into stages? How does the first stage get reused?
Well, have you seen how the Falcon 9 stages work, where they come back and land?
No.
You haven't seen that?
No.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
Jamie's gonna pull it up. So does it come down with parachutes? Does it how does it land?
No, it lands propulsively with the thrusters, with the engines.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's designed to take off. Here it is.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So that is the bottom of the rocket that launches it straight up, and then afterwards it comes down and lands like that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And then the top piece can then land separately.
Yes. Well, in the case of Falcon 9, the upper stage burns up on reentry. Falcon 9 has there's the fairing, the top, where the satellites are contained in the top, and that the fairing halves, once it gets to space where the atmosphere is thin, it's still a long way from orbit, but it's in space, so you no longer need the satellite doesn't need to be protected by the nose cone, the fairing, and so that it sort of splits in two and falls away. And then, so with Falcon 9, we recover the fairing halves and recover the booster, but we lose the upper stage.
On purpose? Did you design it that way?
Yes, but it's not really possible to, if with Falcon 9, the architecture does, like, if we made the upper stage reusable, our payload to orbit would be dramatically less. So in order to have meaningful payload to orbit, scale is important. Like, you need to make things big. There is value to scale. For the family, like for a truck, you wouldn't want like everything delivered by a small pickup truck. You want semi-trailers. You don't see you don't see ships in the ocean, cargo ships, coming along with one sea van and with an outboard motor.
Right.
It's like a giant ship. So scale has value in and of itself. Like the same computer that controls the big rocket controls the tiny rocket. So, even just in terms of like the computer and like the electronics weight becomes vanishingly small in a big rocket, but it is significant in a small rocket.
Do you think there'll ever be a time where there's an alternative source of propulsion outside of just of a burning fuel? Like, is it possible that someone would develop a nuclear propulsion or some other method other than just burning large amounts of gasoline or rocket fuel?
There's no way around Newton's third law, really. So you basically have to expel mass. Like when you get there's a for a car that you could push against the ground. For an aircraft, you can react against the air. For a boat, you can react against water. In vacuum, there is nothing. So the only way to move is to react against yourself, to essentially shoot out gas at very high velocity, and to transfer momentum from to that gas that is going that way very rapidly. So you want to accelerate a small amount of mass very fast in order to have the large amount of mass, accelerate slowly. Because momentum is conserved. So, yeah.
So we're stuck with gas.
Yeah.
Until some insane breakthrough dealing with gravity or something.
I mean, it's not going to happen.
Not in our lifetime?
Not in our lifetime. No. Yeah. So ironically, everything will go electric except for rockets. It's just now you can make rockets indirectly electric by using electricity to create the fuel. So you can take CO2 and H2O and create methane and oxygen from that. So methane is CH4 and oxygen is O2. So, and for example, on Mars, which is a primarily CO2 atmosphere, and there's a lot of water ice, is you can mine the ice, take the ice and the CO2 up from the atmosphere, simplifying this a lot, but run it over a catalyst and give it a lot of energy, and you can get CH4 and O2, and you can gracefully get your propellant on Mars. The rocket, by the way, is mostly oxygen. So for Starship, we're almost 80% oxygen. It's only just over 20% fuel.
Really?
Yeah.
So, is this as efficient as you anticipate it being? Any time in our lifetime? Like, is it the trip to Mars is like what, 6 months? Is that what the idea is?
Yeah, it's about 6 months.
Do you ever anticipate it being quicker than that? Is it possible to make these things faster? Would you have to have solar sails? Like, would you?
No,
would
solar sail would be very slow.
Would it be?
I'm trying to think of like the way to think about gravity here. There's a lot of analogies, but like you can think like space itself is curved, like it's like a funnel. Like if there's something that has a lot of mass, it's creating like a funnel, and so in the same way, like if you have a coin funnel and the coin thinks it's going in a straight line, pretty much. The physicists out there might have quibble with my analogies, but anyway, I'm trying to convey what gravity is like a funnel. And so if you want to get out of that gravity well, you actually need to go very fast parallel to the Earth's surface. And the faster you go parallel to the Earth's surface, the further out you spin. So, or you can think of like a marble in a funnel. Like if you want get that marble to go far out, you just spin it sideways, and it'll spiral out. And conversely, if you just due to the friction of the air friction and the rolling friction, it will slow down a little bit if you don't give it any push, and will slowly spiral in. And then as it gets closer, it spins faster and faster. And this is how gravity basically works. All the things in the solar system are spinning around this gigantic funnel in space-time called the sun. And we're like these tiny little dust motes going around the sun. And the further out you are away from the sun, the slower you move around in terms of degrees per second. So like the orbit of Mars, which is further away from the sun, is about 2 years, and Earth's 1 year. Because Mars is about 50% further away from the Earth from the sun than the Earth is. So it's like Mars, Earth is at 1 astronomical unit, Mars is like 1.5-ish astronomical units. So we're about 8 light minutes away from the sun. Mars is about 12. And so when you want to go to Mars, you basically accelerate along the same path of Earth going around the sun, and you time it such that as that your acceleration gives you an elliptical orbit around the sun, where the tip of the ellipse intersects with Mars. So Mars is going around, you go and you just time it to coincide with the tip of your ellipse being Mars, and that turns out to be about a 6-month journey. Now you can speed that up. I think I could sort of see a way to make it happen in say 3 months, where the intersection with Mars would not be at the tip of the ellipse, but on the edge of the ellipse. Now, that would mean the tip of the ellipse is out near Jupiter. So if you miss Mars, you're going to end up at Jupiter, Jupiter's orbit. So
that's not good.
Yeah. And you're going to be coming in hot.
Yeah.
So, but I think probably can get down to 3 months. Not that big of a problem. Getting down to a month is hard. And then Earth and Mars are only in the same sort of, there's only about a 6-month period every 2 years when Earth and Mars are aligned such that you can do the transfer. You can certainly imagine that if Mars is on the other side of the sun, you can't get there because you've got to go through the sun. That's not going to work. So you got to time it. This is like about a quarter of every Mars year is when you can do the transfer. So 6 months every 2 years. So if we are able to build, or if humanity is able to build a city on Mars, people will probably remember, which planetary conjunction they came on, Because it's not like you can just go all the time. You can only go every 2 years.
When do you anticipate, like how much time before there's regular travel back and forth to Mars? Roughly. like a real civilization on Mars?
Well, I think it's going to take a while to build a real civilization. The threshold that really matters is for getting past the great filter. Is do we have enough resources on Mars such that if the spaceships from Earth stop coming,
You could survive.
Yeah. So, like, you'd only be just missing one little thing. You'd be like, you're on a long sea voyage, and the only thing you're missing is vitamin C. Still not good. It's only a matter of time, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's going to be curtains. So, you got to have all the things necessary to sustain civilization on Mars. And the reason that the ships from Earth stopped coming could be World War III, or it could be due to a slow decline of civilization. So civilization here on Earth could end with a bang or a whimper.
Or natural disasters.
Yeah.
Asteroid impact,
Yeah, that'd be up
supervolcano.
in the bang category.
Yeah.
But it also could be like a whole series of things. Like, so like, what killed the dinosaurs? Well,
Right.
it wasn't just one thing, you know?
Right.
It was like a whole bunch of things happened in a row, and you know, while they could have taken any one of those things, they had like 3 things happen, and no dinosaurs.
Which is kind of amazing that crocodiles are still here.
Yeah.
Those fuckers.
Well,
They're resilient.
crocodiles, they'll live on decayed meat. They love rotten meat, and so in any kind of disastrous situation, there's a lot of dead creatures, and the crocodiles love it. So that's why they're around. Crocodiles and bugs and mushrooms.
And shrews.
Shrews, yeah.
Which is why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Our great grandparents were shrews.
What a strange thing
So, like, yeah.
to come from. So there's hope. There's hope for all you rodents out there.
Yeah,
One day you can go to Mars. Just keep doing your homework.
absolutely.
So there'll be you say the great filter. What did you mean by that?
Well, so there's something called like the Fermi paradox of like, where are the aliens?
Yeah.
So, yeah, where are the aliens? I think it was Carl Sagan that said, like, if there either are a lot of aliens or none, and they're equally terrifying. If there are a lot of aliens, well, I mean, the invasion ship slash bug infestation, just, like the
Starship Trooper style.
well, yeah, I mean, it's like an alien civilization might just view us as like a bug infestation.
Right.
It's like, hey, we left that planet, it was fine. Now it's got a bunch of bugs. Just go fumigate it. Like we'd fumigate a house. That's certainly possible. And then, but if there are no aliens, well, could it be that all civilizations are just destroyed before they become interstellar? So. And I want to be clear, like, to the best of my knowledge, there is no evidence for alien life on Earth. There's no evidence for alien life. There's no direct evidence for alien life. No, and if somebody says, "Oh, what about this alien for, sighting or whatever?" I'm like, listen, it's got to be at least as good as a 7-Eleven or ATM cam. Okay, it's like, if somebody's got at least like an iPhone 1 level camera, like something,
The problem with that is it's just too easy to fake things today too.
Yeah, sure. They should at least try hard in faking it.
Are you familiar with Commander David Fravor's account of the Tic Tac UFO that he encountered off of the coast of San Diego? Lex Friedman?
Yeah.
Lex Friedman interviewed him on his podcast, and I interviewed him as well. And if you ever get a chance to listen to Lex's conversation with him, it's really excellent. But this guy is a naval fighter pilot, and he talked about this thing that they tracked on radar that went from more than 60,000 feet above sea level to 1 foot in less than a second, shaped like a Tic Tac, no visible sign of propulsion, blocked radar, actively jammed their tracking systems, and then went to their predetermined point that they were supposed to, that the fighter jet was supposed to scramble to, went to it 30 miles away in, a couple seconds. Like, they have no idea how it did it. They don't know what it is.
Okay.
And these guys that were working for the Navy off the coast said they had encountered them several times. They didn't know what they were. They didn't know what to do.
Well, do they have
just did
photo
nothing.
or something? I mean,
They do. They have video of it.
Okay.
They have video of it. They have there's you ever see the New York Times article that came out in 2017 about this stuff?
I don't know.
Yeah, there was a New York Times article in 2017 that was detailing this, and there's a couple other different sightings that were very similar. They were trying to figure out what these things were and why, and it was also in the COVID relief package that the CIA was supposed to release. Yeah, the politicians are trying to figure out what all this shit is, and so they try to get them to release all the information they have within 180 days.
Honestly, I think I would know if there were aliens.
I would hope so. That's why I'm asking you.
No, I'd be jumping on that. Be like,
you should watch that conversation with Lex. It's
Sure.
like, here's the thing. Do you think that they would want us to know? Or do you think they would just be observing and making sure we don't blow ourselves up? Would
I don't know,
if you
man.
were an
They're
alien
real
civilization?
They sure are subtle. I mean, if they wanted us to know, obviously they could just
For sure.
show up and walk down Main Street.
Right.
Like, hey, I'm an alien. Check me out.
Right.
Here's my spaceship. I just land in the middle of Times Square. I'll be like,
Right.
Okay.
Or hover over downtown LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we believe you.
Yeah.
So whatever they are very subtle. Very subtle. These aliens.
How often do you think about it?
Zero.
Zero? Even though you're thinking about interplanetary travel, you don't really think about aliens.
No, I mean, if they show up, I'm like, great, okay, now this is new information. But we, well,
What an interesting way of putting it. This is new information.
This is new information. Like, where were you guys up till now?
Yeah.
So, anyway, listen, if I see some evidence for aliens, I'll be the first to be like, aliens,
Right. Then you'll investigate. But until then, you think it's kind of a waste of time?
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely seems like a waste of time if nothing's happened so far. You think about all the people that have been researching aliens for their whole life, and they have very little to show for it.
Well, there's...
Other than cool stories.
Yeah. I mean, we have archaeologists going all over the world looking at things. Where there's this people... Like, if we were to find something like, let's say, like a cube of titanium, just like a 1-inch cube of titanium, let's say in the middle of the pyramid, I'd be like, aliens for sure. There's no way they could have made titanium back then. There's no way. That's hard. That's all. One little, didn't even need a computer. Like, a computer would be like, hey, wow, computers, they didn't have computers back then, so it must be aliens. But even just like some advanced metallurgy, anything, like, we could say anything like that.
Right. Nothing like that that we could point to that we can't do.
Everything that we found archaeologically is consistent with the time, the technology they had at that time.
Archaeologically.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're just talking about old stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just throughout history. It's not like...
Yeah.
Like if aliens visited, there'd be something buried somewhere, you'd think. We haven't seen anything. So, anyway... I mean, maybe there are aliens, but they're very subtle. If they are, they're just very, they're being pretty shy. So, as far as we can tell, there's none. So, nor are we seeing signals from any other solar system or anything like that. So, now, and the thing is that on a galactic timescale, even with sublight travel, you could absolutely colonize the whole galaxy, even some of the neighboring galaxies. So if you said 1 million years with and say there's no new physics, could you colonize the galaxy in 1 million years? Absolutely, the entire galaxy.
So you would start with Mars, build bases on Mars, then use Mars to jump off to all these other planets, set up places there, and over thousands of years easily.
Just kind of like, so hop from one solar system to the next, and
that it seems like that's imperative. Like, that has to happen if the human civilization is going to survive, because our planet is just, we're too subject to natural disasters and our own folly, and if the species is going to survive, we kind of have to escape. It's
mostly about the species. I mean, there have been some real doozies of massive meteors and super volcanoes, and the continents moved all over the place, and Earth's been a snowball and super hot. If you read like the geological history of Earth, it's like very long and complicated. So, and then there've been so many extinction events, not like just a few. I mean, the Permian extinction event, that was a real rough one, where it's like well over 90% of all species died out. And that doesn't tell the whole story, because a huge chunk of the remaining species were fungi and like sponges and stuff like that. Like if are you a sponge? Okay, you're probably doing okay. They're still around. Are you a mushroom? Do you like being in the dark and feasting on dead plant and animal matter? Okay, but if you're like a human, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So,
well, didn't people got down to, there was just a few thousand of us at one point in time because of a super volcano, I think Indonesia. I think it was only like 60, 70,000 years ago.
Yeah. There have been a number of sort of
Real
evolutionary
close.
choke points.
Yeah.
And the last ice age must have been pretty rough too. A lot of species got wiped out then.
Is that part of what motivates you? What motivates you to want to do this and to put people on Mars and to start traveling, get people traveling through the galaxy?
Yeah. So philosophically, I'm in the Douglas Adams sort of school of thought, which is that the universe is the answer, and we need to figure out like what questions to ask to better understand the answer that is the universe. So we want to expand the scope and scale of consciousness, increase our understanding of the universe, like to understand why are we here, where do we come from, where are we going, what's this all about, and in order to I don't know, just understand the meaning of life, we have to expand the scope and scale of life and the consciousness, which may be digital and biological in the future, and get past at least one of the great filters, which is to become a multi-planet species. A species that does not become multiplanetary is simply waiting around until there is some extinction event, either self-inflicted or external. So we gotta be a multi-planet species. Also, that's like way more exciting. That's like, do you want a future where we're out there among the stars exploring the universe, or do you want a future where we're stuck on Earth forever? I think we want the super exciting future where we're out there exploring the galaxy. That sounds great to me. And I think it's worth 1% of our resources, something like that. Maybe more, but at least 1%.
Well, it's in all the most exciting sci-fi movies.
Yeah. Yeah, if you saw a sci-fi movie and they didn't have spaceships, you'd be like, what's going on there? Something terrible must have happened.
Well, we always assumed when we were kids that we would be traveling to the moon and back and traveling all over space by now. Space 1999 was a show when I was a kid. That was interplanetary travel. Remember, they had spaceships out there and motherships, and they thought 1999, by then, for sure, it would happen. The problem is we need more Elon Musks. There's not a lot of people that really dedicate all their time and energy to do something like this. It really does. It's a really fascinating thing about the species. It takes a few unique individuals that are motivated to do something like this and have the resources and the intelligence and you can figure out how to organize people to get something like this done. Not a lot of you.
Well, there's a lot of smart, talented people at SpaceX and at Tesla, and that's how we get things done. But yeah, I mean, part of the reason why SpaceX is still privately held, although we have a lot of investors and everyone at the company is given stock, is that the time horizon for SpaceX is long. you know, is that like, you know, what's the market for transporting things to Mars? Well, there's no market. There's no one there.
Right.
So they were like, that sounds pretty risky. And the probably company, you know, the feedback loop tends to be, you know, maybe a year to 4 years or even quarterly. And it's like, well, this is like 10 years, 20 years out. And I didn't probably answer your question earlier, which is like, when do I think we can go to Mars? I mean, I think possibly as soon as 5 years from now.
Really?
Yeah. But then to have then you got to build out the base, and then you got to build out the city. So the first thing you got to build is like, okay, you got to generate energy. So you got like giant solar panel farm, you know, and then you've got to have propellant production. So you got to make the fuel and the oxygen, and you got to, you know, grow food, grow plants, and like all the things necessary for life support.
So does everything have to be done in a greenhouse? Is it some sort of a dome?
Yeah.
So is there a long-term possibility of terraforming?
Yes, long term we can make, if you just warm Mars up, there's a lot of frozen CO2 and frozen water that would liquefy. The CO2 would densify the atmosphere. The liquid water would form oceans and lakes. So basically a lot of frozen water and frozen CO2 on Mars.
And how would you warm it up?
Well, there's a few ways to tackle that problem. That'll obviously be up to the Martians, but I don't know, you could have giant solar reflectors. You could create like miniature suns over the poles or something like that.
What?
Well, it can't be gravitationally contained, but you could just have it just do giant thermonuclear explosions every few seconds. The sun is a giant thermonuclear reactor in the sky. If you want to know what is it like to be exposed to thermonuclear radiation, go stand outside in the middle of the day.
My 10-year-old said, if space has no air and fire needs air, how does the sun stay burning?
Yeah.
She loves to do that. She looks at you like she's super smart.
Right.
Like, that's a good question, little one.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about the sun. The sun is converting, I think, 4 or 5 million tons of mass to energy every second. So, you know, E equals mc squared. So that's
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and it's not even a big sun.
It's not even a big sun. So, yeah, 4 or 5 megatons per second, every day, for billions of years.
So what kind of engineering would be involved in creating a mini sun that you hover above the poles?
So, I mean, the sun it's a gravitationally contained reaction. So, you need a lot of mass. So if you don't have a lot of mass, you can just that's why you'd have like explosions, just like little pulsing things, like a pulsing sun. So some people have said, well, if you added up all the nuclear weapons on Earth, that wouldn't even be that much. I'm like, yeah, because they're small. We could make way bigger nuclear bombs than the current ones. It's like, what's the point? So, well, if you want to make an artificial sun, you just use a lot more hydrogen.
But that would be something
tritium or deuterium.
They would have to construct on Mars.
Yeah.
And then figure out a way to launch it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, honestly, not that hard. I mean, they could do this without barely even having computers. So back in the day. So, but you can also do it with solar reflectors. I don't know. Somehow, if you want to make it look like Earth, you got to warm it up.
Right.
And,
So in hundreds of years from now, or whatever it would take, people would eventually, figure some way out.
Yeah, you could terraform Mars and make it be like Earth. And we could take the life from Earth and breathe life into Mars. There's nothing living on the surface of Mars. Yeah, nothing. It's cold.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ultraviolet. The combination of being cold and having a lot of ultraviolet radiation, that's the killer combo. Just being cold, then bacteria could survive. Or just UV, but warm, the bacteria can repair themselves. But if they're frozen and they get blasted with the UV, they can't repair themselves. They're frozen.
And isn't the speculation that at one point in time Mars did have an atmosphere? Mars was different than it is now?
Yeah. It once had quite a dense atmosphere, and it seems most likely to have had oceans and lakes. Now they're frozen and covered in dust. And that orange color you see is iron oxide. So there's quite a lot of iron, just rust. For a while there, they thought, well, maybe Mars was like some ancient civilization.
Do you remember the face on Mars that they?
Sure.
There's a guy that was completely. He was fascinating. Richard Hoagland, is that his name? See if that's the guy's name. But he's, with all due respect, out of his fucking mind.
Sure.
And he was making all these incredibly bizarre connections, like measurements from this rock to that rock, and using all this mathematics to prove that this symmetry was impossible in nature. And this was all created by civilization. That this face was like some sort of a, ancient shrine to whatever being lived there before. There it is. Monuments to Mars. Richard Hoagland. That's the guy's name. I used to listen to him on Art Bell. It's crazy. It was just, I mean, I don't know if he's schizophrenic. Maybe he's just smarter than all of us. But
well,
Jamie's shaking his head.
I think aspirationally, you want to believe things proportionate to the evidence, not inversely proportionate to the evidence.
Well, he was definitely inversely proportionate to the evidence. It was very strange. It was one of those ones where I had to stop listening because I felt like I was going crazy too.
Yeah.
He was so invested in this idea. Again, maybe he's right. I don't think so.
No, yeah. I doubt it.
Well, then they had subsequent voyages where they made high-resolution scans of the exact same area, and it looked very different without the same shadows. It just looked like rocks.
Yeah, Mars kind of looks like, I don't know, like some Arizona desert or something like that.
What do they think happened? They think it was hit? Like an asteroid hit?
Well, everything got hit with a lot of asteroids over time.
Do they think that that's what killed the environment there, the atmosphere?
Well, the atmosphere, so Mars has lower gravity than Earth, and it does not have a strong magnetic field. So over time, this is over billions of years, the atmosphere will be gradually eroded by the solar wind and having less gravity. So the smaller you are, the less atmosphere you're going to have. So generating an atmosphere on Mars, it would eventually erode, but we're talking about hundreds of millions of years to billions of years type of thing. We have plenty of time to figure things out.
For us, you mean?
Yeah.
So, but do you think that Mars their atmosphere eroded quicker because it's just smaller?
That's a factor. Yeah, I mean, like if you look at say asteroids, or they don't really have, like Sirius is a pretty big asteroid, but doesn't really have an atmosphere. The Moon doesn't really have an atmosphere. So it doesn't have an atmosphere. Technically, there's a tiny amount of rarefied gas, but it's not a real atmosphere.
Did you pay attention at all to the guy who was the chair of the Harvard Astronomy Department, Avi Loeb, who was recently, there was a bunch of stories in the news because he believes that an object that came through our solar system in 2017 was possibly extraterrestrial in origin?
Yeah. The whatever. Umami burger.
Yeah, they don't. He thinks that there's apparently there's a 91% possibility that it was shaped like a
Your Mama asteroid.
Yeah, Umamau. It was a Hawaiian name.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a Hawaiian name.
It sounds like Your Mama.
Yes, it was like your mama. Yeah. Umau or something like that. Yeah. Because it was discovered in Hawaii, so they gave it a Hawaiian name.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I think a fundamental test of human civilization is: are we going to become a multi-planet civilization before something cataclysmic happens. Now, I'll be clear, I'm pretty optimistic about the future, so I'm not thinking like civilization's about to end anytime soon. But there's a chance that it will. Like Stephen Hawking, before he died, he thought it was like around 1% a century, something like that, I believe. So, it's not like 1% chance over 100 years. It's like 99% chance of making it. So I think he's probably about right.
So 1% chance per century. So as the centuries go on, there's less of a chance?
No, it's
more of a chance. So because we become more intelligent, more resources, and possibly the ability to escape Earth.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know, Russian roulette with,
asteroids.
99 barrels are empty.
Yeah.
Click, click, click. Eventually.
It's going to get us.
Yeah.
You said something that I thought was really interesting, the meaning of life. Do you think there is a meaning to life?
Well, I think arguably the meaning of life is to